Sorry, sometimes I get caught on that clap and beat. Hey, everybody, welcome back to X's for Show, your number one show for social media reactions. I'm Nico, and you can catch me on our social media, at X's for Show. As for me, I'm Nico, and you can check me out at Nico Action. That's NicoAction.
And I'm TK. You can find me at TK Elemental.
And that makes me your producer, Kevo, and you can find me in a cave at Kevo Really. That's KEVOREALLY. I've decided to be in a cave today because we love
caves. Are great.
You know, and
hey, Tom.
It is spooky cave season. You know what I mean?
It is.
Like, it is. You got to pick a good time of year to go cave diving, right? And so it should be when the witch and goblin decorations are already put out in the cave for you.
Exactly, or something.
Clunk. So what makes a great shock elimination, right? That's one of my favorite things to ask. And it's not just about Drag Race in particular, but it's actually any show where there is a competition element, you know. And I was thinking about this, and I was actually reflecting on shock eliminations from my childhood. And you know what felt like a shock elimination to me as a kid? And I'm not being silly. Riley getting sent off of Buffy, because that's what it felt like.
No, I get it.
It felt like he got voted off the Scooby Gang. And
I mean, my other example for today is when I was tweeting out ads for today's episode was this episode of Loki.
Yeah.
As a shock elimination.
Another one. Shock eliminations in Lower Decks all season. But, my question then for you guys, Lower Decks, suppose the zap thingy might be the same thing as the stick thingy from Loki.
We'll get to it, yeah.
So here's then my question. What makes for a good shock elimination for you? For me, it requires three things. It requires surety on the part of the defeated, a certain amount of powerlessness on the part of the bystanders, and a judgmental god. And, I feel like that is a lot of times what these eliminations on Drag Race give us. Rue just sits there so sure she's the queen, and, she is. It is her show. Find somebody else whose name is on it. And, for me, it really takes somebody who thinks they can't be defeated. As obviously it's going to come up. I'd like to keep it on, please. I think it's obviously going to come up. She is my queen. She is my everything. It's Valentina. So it really takes the confidence being broken, being humbled for me. How about you guys?
For me, the key factor is chaos. It's gonna be from different, that's what chaos is, it's gonna be from different sides every time. Riley is a great example because for me, I was ready for Riley to be gone. He was boring. He didn't, at the end of the day, the real problem that Buffy was having that lasts through season 7 is that she recognizes that she is a creature of darkness and death. And Riley, I don't think that Riley couldn't have gotten to her level there, but he wasn't doing it. And so I wanted Riley gone. But in the context of everything that was happening, it seemed like it would be significantly worse for Buffy and for the gang if Riley was gone. That's one powerhouse down. That's one person with organizational training in operations down. That is Buffy miserable. It's going to be way, way worse if Riley leaves. Therefore, Go.
And that was such an unusual thing for Buffy at the time, too. We were all aware that Seth Green's career was starting to take off, and that's why he wanted to leave the show. But Mark Blucas, It didn't seem like he was chomping.
Yeah, that Jessica Biel movie wasn't going to do anything for him.
You mean you don't remember when he was a basketball extra in the movie Eddie, starring Whoopi Goldberg?
I sure do not remember that.
It really felt strange to have someone so swiftly and unceremoniously in so many ways removed from the Buffy gang. That just wasn't how things were done. People stuck around, so it was shocking in that regard alone.
And I've been rewatching old episodes of Grey's Anatomy, and I've gotten to a couple of the really bad clear out the secondary and tertiary characters episodes.
I'm only laughing because I know I'm going to wind up watching it for you.
Don't. That's the one I would never say you have to. But there really, there is an active shooter episode, And you know people are going to get shot and die. Like, you know, it's 8 seasons in, so you know that this happens, that they do dumb stuff like this. You know you're going to lose people, but the first one is just like this really out of nowhere, just like gank a character. And it's very chaotic compared to the very like he methodically sneaks around the place and like people get wounded and will they survive. This one is just gone. And so I think it really, if a show can set you some standards, if a show can say something like, it would be a huge mess if Riley left, and then follow through on that, that makes for a good shock elimination. And it does go through to the other side. You better give me real good consequences to an elimination if a person leaves. It can't just be, well, they're done now, we're all moving on.
Kevin, how about you? What makes for a good shock elimination?
I feel like the best shock elimination is something that you truly, truly, truly could not have possibly predicted. Everything that we're saying are so many key elements that can be combined in so many different ways where, you know, sometimes it's a surprise, sometimes the person is powerless, sometimes it is, you know, deserved. But for me, it's really the most when you just didn't really see it coming at all. When the person who gets the elimination almost, it feels like, wasn't even in the running. I can't remember if it was this, if it was Project Runway, it was whatever show we were watching. Oh, it was Pruns over the summer. Karasan, our beloved Karasan's elimination from this past season of Project Runway, where they said nothing negative about her design, and all of a sudden, she's just going home. And it felt like the most bizarre thing. There was nothing throughout the episode that it felt like there was a narrative leading to the idea that she could even be in trouble, which is normally what you see in reality competition. And then when they got to her judging, it really felt like she was at worst in the middle and then cut. And that really, really was so truly unexpected. And that, for me, is one of the most important elements.
And, you know, I think when it comes to eliminations on shows like Drag Race, one of the big things is that it comes down to one person, right? It comes down to what Rue says. With so many of the other shows, you know, you sort of like hand wave, oh, it's the judges, it's the producers, you know, it's everybody. But when it comes to Drag Race, there's one person, and it's RuPaul, and she kind of says what goes. If she likes someone, they're going to do fine. And if she doesn't, they're in trouble.
And I do want to challenge that, but also kind of lift that up a little bit. It's a weird dynamic. The brand is RuPaul's Drag Race, and it is very specifically part of the branding. I've consulted with the judges, but the final decision is mine to make. What is never said is I have consulted with the writers, the story producers, the budgeting department. I do not believe that everybody falls under RuPaul's yes, no thumb insofar as I think the decisions are very informed, but I think brand-wise, she has chosen to step up and always be where the buck stops because the system is really ingeniously put in place for that kind of never to matter. We have no rubric. We have no idea what's going on. I think the interesting thing about Drag Race going on this long is we're starting to see so many patterns that it's getting difficult that the buck stops with Rue. But it has lasted this long, and I think probably could go to about 20 seasons before people really riot about it. But, you know, there are moments, and they are increasing, and they're increasingly clear, where we see that although RuPaul announces it, says it's her decision, you can see the writing and the story beats and the preferred cast and the weird judging so that you know that even though RuPaul is taking responsibility, and at the end of the day, if that's what she says, that's all we have to go on, we do have this kind of background awareness that in fact there is more going on in terms of how that person got eliminated. And boy, does this feel like a huge episode for that. Like, to the point where I'm like, did something secretly happen, because this just makes no sense otherwise, and doesn't even make sense from a, well, RuPaul didn't like her, so she went home perspective.
Right. You okay?
He's got something to say, but can he say it?
No, I was accidentally on mute. Yeah. Yeah, and I think, when you're talking about the judging and the system of judging, one of the most important things to consider is that it is competition. And at the end of the day, it is about creating a product that will make the most money. One of the things that we point out about things like American Idol is the transparency of the voting situation is easily manipulable. They can have a person from a small community and a person from a large community competing against one another in the final two, and they will simply put quintuple the support behind one of them in terms of answering phones, although I think now it's all through messaging, so I don't think it's quite the same thing anymore. But back when it used to be call-in for the first seasons, that's what they used to do. They would just put more phone banks near the winners, the intended winner's hometown, to help bolster their numbers. And I think that is something worth noting. At least with Drag Race, they don't quite have the same tee-hee effect about it. Though I did notice that there's only one guy credited as head writer on Drag Race UK, and I just feel like that's a lot of silly jokes to come from just one man. So
I'm sure it's some like BBC contract thing where they're allowed to not give credit to certain people that are technically working on the show.
Oh, yeah.
British people, write in and tell us how it works.
So let's talk a little bit about like famous shock eliminations. TK, I was not watching the show when you were. So you were on the show way before me. What was your first big shock moment?
In terms of eliminations, I want to say it was probably Willem, which was, one of the ones on my list for today, because Willem does not get eliminated. Willem gets disqualified. And this again speaks to my, chaos theory, because it comes completely out of nowhere. And again, it's not, her doing poorly in this episode came out of nowhere, or her getting bad critiques came out of nowhere. It is an entirely standard episode that then when they get to the elimination portion, they call Willem's name. And, bring her to the front and say, RuPaul says, it's come to our attention that you've broken the rules and you're going home. And on top of that, the other thing I said when it comes to chaos is it really has to last beyond the elimination. And holy shit, Willem's chaos of disqualification lasts well into today. We're more than 10 years in. She is fighting a one-woman war against RuPaul. The two of them can't be in the same room. She'll never be on All Stars. She'll never be on any Drag Race branded property or World of Wonder branded property. She is really outspokenly critical of the production, never the girls. And it just is absolutely wild. And it's wild. Like, I think she is just as much of an unreliable narrator as RuPaul in this particular thing. So it's really wild that we have gotten like 8 different stories about what the disqualifying events were. And
did they not say it on air directly?
Oh, they do, but they're not true. So they say during the reunion, they don't say when she's alone, they just say you're disqualified, go home. She goes home. And then when she comes back for the reunion, at which time it seems like, things are fine. She could be on All Stars again or something. And in fact was supposed to be on All Stars 1. But she says at the time it was because she was, getting conjugal visits from her husband, outside of, the rule. She was sneaking him in and fucking him in her hotel room. She's later said, at times that it was that she was fucking a producer, that it was that she was really an outspoken advocate for all of the girls and it was becoming a problem for the show. Like they weren't getting fed properly and, They were
And you can see how someone would get that confused with fucking a producer.
Right, exactly. No, her story just has changed so much. Her story has just changed so much because she's really, self-aggrandizing and self-involved. And I imagine also as time has gone on, she's been emboldened. So like it's a mix of things, but I don't believe any particular story. So, it's total chaos, and that makes for a shock elimination.
And, I think one of the hardest things for Kevo and I is we've watched everything judged by RuPaul. So that's except for seasons 1 through 4 and All Stars 1. We've seen 5 through 15, All Stars 2 through 8. We've seen UK 1 through 5 plus Versus the World, Down Under 1, 2, 3, Canada 1 through 3, Canada Versus the World. And now we've started the journey of Drag Race Philippines, right? Having a great time. But that means we haven't really been live for any big shock eliminations. It's been kind of like a pretty normal time for
yeah.
I mean, not any of the like really crazy ones, but like some of the really shocking judgments you've really.
Okay, and I'll definitely agree with that. Now, I know that we're buying time till one of our members who's having slight technical difficulties is able to hop on and join in for the shock drag eliminations competition. But
I mean, we can keep going on our 3 lists. And
I'm gonna say we should just get started. Oh! I
sorry, that was so loud.
I summoned him like the candy boy that he is. I spoke with him, and it brought him here to us. And so, Jonah, are you ready to come on in and play? All right, let's bring him on in. Hey, Jonah.
Hi, everyone.
I was just saying how we were just a little bit buying time till you were able to get on air and talk about our lists, because we each have picked 3 significant Drag Race shock eliminations. But Jonah, what if you should be shock eliminated in the middle of this episode? How would everybody continue to find you? So where can everybody find you online should they want to follow you?
Should someone here pull my lipstick and I be eliminated unceremoniously, even though I'm the front runner, you can follow me over on any social at Peak Jonah. That's PEAK.
Right. And okay, let's jump in, because I think we each have some good moments. I've sent Kevo some images of mine. I don't know if everybody else did. But...
Mine are in the document, just FYI.
So I kind of want to start with the fact that I made.
Oh my god, I didn't see any of these. Oops.
I made my.
Guys, he's tired.
I made mine Kevo's list. Oh yeah, let's just real quick. I was camping all weekend. Once again, I was at the amazing camp out. I picked up me and boyfriend's anniversary of the being there this year ornament that they did. They did like a little happy holidays ornament, and I picked it up.
Cute.
Yeah, it's stupid cute. But so I'm a little tired, and Kevo really pulled this whole episode together by his handsome self. With everything, TK.
And not to be too maudlin, but I live in Maine, so it's been a weekend, and
I think
I'm just smiling through it because laughter is how you get through horrible events.
Guys, and if it's not a shooter on one coast, it's a jacuzzi on another.
Yeah, rest in peace, Matthew Perry.
Oh man, rough days ahead. So,
but here to brighten up everyone's spirits
is Bruno Campos.
Happy Hunter's Moon to you too, sir. I need to catch up on gargoyles. This is what I need to do.
All right, it's time to do this. Let's jump into our lists. I want to start with my list. Kevin, this is my top entry. This first entry is just so famous. It's one of those things where, like, I think I'd been really afraid that Drag Race would be a bunch of, like, shitty, snitty, nasty. I think what I'm trying to say is high school white gays. And very rarely were they. But there's one that's so delicious and so good, and the cattiest, shittiest, Rachel Berryest, claw your eyes out, Erica Kane bullshit I've ever seen. And that is quite truly when Naomi has the gall to eliminate Manila. It is. Life's not fair, baby. First of all, I love Naomi. She is a goddess. Second of all, this moment changes her as a human being for life, I think. I think once you say something like this, it's that moment in Harry Potter. Once you use unicorn's blood to stay alive, you're never good again. I think once you sacrifice yourself to the dark meme, there is no coming. Erica Kane, that is fucking right, Erica Kane. I have seen Susan Lucci do selections from Annie Get Your Gun at an MGM Disney Studios soap opera weekend. You have no idea how much I loved Erica Kane.
Why did we do that?
I love this moment. I love Naomi. I don't even care that I also think that Manila is fucking top of the list, top tier, super queen. This moment owns. This moment is just so phenomenal, and that she just looks so goddamn beautiful when she does it. What do you guys think about Naomi just being that bitch all over everything?
I genuinely think when All Stars 2 happened, they never imagined the girls would go so hard for let's judge how RuPaul would have judged, and let's never be the person that sends home the strongest competition so we can do better. I know they knew that it would happen and that there would be, I think they thought there would be a balance, but it took a long time to see anybody go particularly hard on eliminating somebody who was competition. And this is such a good moment because it is allowed. It is, I think it's what was expected when they redid the format, but nobody really took on that responsibility. And I have one on my list that I feel is like they didn't eliminate competition, but they sent home the wrong person. But this is, I really do appreciate that Naomi not only did the kind of funnier, TV-er, cuntier thing, but also managed to embrace the fact that like life is not fair. And also this isn't, the world stage politics. This isn't, lives are not ending because of this. It's okay to play a little bit of a game and to have a season of television. That's different from like, there's no scholarships going out.
If this had been they revealed that Boyd was the villain all along, I would have bought it.
Yeah.
Stop referencing that.
That is your third one in a month?
It's a good reference.
I think the second one in a week.
Oh, God. All right. So, Jonah, other than I have seen you make a cake that is as beautifully colored as that outfit that she is wearing, because you had that beautiful checkered cake that had the green in it, right?
I love that cake.
Oh, that cake was so good.
We can make it again.
Oh, please do. All right. What do you think about Naomi? I don't think you expected me to be like, no, look, Queens forever. And then Naomi was that ever-loving bitch. How did you feel about this shock elimination?
Number one, Naomi is that girl. Number two, as TK said, the All-Stars format, it ran into this slight problem where everybody was like, we're going to judge fairly, and we're going to judge like the judges will. And so a lot of the eliminations felt almost a little predictable in the sense of, yeah, this person did really bad, they're probably both going to pick them. Really, there wasn't a lot of disagreements of who should go home. There was a little bit in All-Stars 2 where Rolaska Talks Part 2 wasn't sending Roxy home, where I think Katya picked Roxy to go home twice. And that was really the only disagreement of like who should go home.
If they really loved her, they would have sent her home before she did that verse.
That has been taking her to the bank ever since.
Yeah,
so
no, that
despite the fact that it's very silly, despite the fact that it's very silly and it did not like up my respect for her, the career maker that it has been has somehow resulted in that same respect coming to light.
So going into All Stars 4, I don't really think anybody kind of expected anything different to happen. This decision changed the game. Naomi literally said, I will do what it takes for me to get that crown. Manila was the front runner. Manila was the strongest competitor. I do think that Naomi could probably beat Manila in a lip sync, depending on what the lip sync song is. But Naomi truly said, "Nope, this is the time to make moves." It was almost Big Brother, if you will.
Yeah, great HOA.
Basically saying, "No, we're gonna backdoor Naomi. Everybody's gonna think that we're going for Latrice because at that point, why would anybody else think otherwise?" Latrice had already gone home at that point. She came back, did well in one challenge, and then was already in the bottom again, statistically, and more likely that you're more likely to go home. But Naomi said, no, we're changing the game. I mean, the real gag of it was that Monet was being petty and salty, and also would have sent Manila home, which was really funny. But yeah, this is the second instance of Naomi changing the game. The first instance actually is her on season 8, where she sent a different frontrunner home. She sent Acid Betty home. They were not expecting Naomi to destroy and demolish Acid Betty in a lip sync. And from that point on, Naomi cemented herself as one of the quintessential Rue girls. I cannot sing my praises enough of this queen.
I think what you mean is ruin girl, because she will ruin you.
I will say this decision had the small butterfly effect of other people trying to copy the significance of this moment to nowhere near the same effect.
Yeah, see every single thing Tamara says. Oh my God, girl, not everything is the best punchline ever.
I do think, Jonah, that's a really important point, because I was excited that the floodwaters could open up, the floodgates could open up on eliminating who you wanted. And, just if you're the front runner and you don't like that person, you can send them home and can survive and can still have a career. Because again, this is all game show. This is not, nobody's next meal is riding on this. But I do think rather than doing that and shaking things up, people looked at it as a second formula that they could follow. You can follow the formula of going with what the judges would have said, or you can follow the formula of trying to do something outrageous. And I wish the lesson that more people had taken was Gia-gun your life. Make decisions that feel authentic to your character that you're playing on television, not think strategically in a different direction. It doesn't all need to be so strategic.
Truly. And funny enough, to try to bring this back to Big Brother, once again, I've been on a personal Big Brother kick. It's, you don't want to play your hand too early. You don't want to try to get someone out. You don't want to make your plans known early enough that it can come back to backfire on you.
Morgan McMichaels.
A really great example. Morgan saying,
I'm just going to remind everybody to keep some of these for the other 11 entries on the list.
Yeah, we've been on this one for 25 minutes.
But yeah, it's just more of Naomi I think just did it at the perfect time of it being late enough in the competition that you should be making those moves.
Absolutely, and that's why it's on this list. That's why it's the first one on this list. Now,
the first one was mine with Willem.
Well, this started the list. You snuck yours
This
in
is
the
the official
preview
list. Yours is the pre-list.
We're just gonna go through these in order and burn through them because it's the easiest way, right?
Yeah.
So I just want to say that my second choice was a really shocking elimination because I hadn't realized that one of the choices was they were going to let Asia O'Hara eliminate butterflies. So I was really confused because my front runner.
Should I have waited? Because this was your pick.
No, that's perfect.
My front runner this season was Asia. I loved her the most, and everyone else evidently knew this going into it. And I know that she wasn't everybody's favorite. She wasn't everybody's big number one, but she was mine. So I did not love the situation. Now, in years since, I do think Miss Queen Brown Cow Stunning, Mo Hearts, and of course, Miss Vanjie, who I just want to say, there's this episode of Canada we watched where she's like, nah, I'm Vanjie. I'm Vanjie. And then all of a sudden it gets to the judging and she's like, here's what I think made this performance really spectacular. She was immediately capable of committing to the character. What do you think, Brooklyn? And like it was just like, Miss Vanjie is a little bit of performance, but she's a very genuine performance. If you get that sort of idea, it's like Cyndi Lauper. That's not her voice, but like it's a voice. So
It's a voice doll.
Cyndi Lauper on Snatch Game won.
What?
Cyndi Lauper as a Snatch Game character won.
Oh, she'd be great. I would love to see Mo Hart do Cyndi Lauper on Snatch Game. I'm having vibes. So yeah. Oh gosh, Asia O'Hara and the Butterflies. Now, evidently, TK Jonah, you were in the fandom at the time, and this could not have been good.
I don't think it was as bad as a lot of moments, and it wasn't as bad as it seemed. It was just like, I mean, so by this point, season 10, I think, had kind of officially fallen flat.
I mean, just few seasons need ASPCA apologies, but I hear what you mean by maybe we've blown it out of proportion.
No, it's not a matter of blowing it out of proportion. It's just a matter of like, immediately you saw like this is not, before you even realized how bad it was, you were like, this is not the rose petals. So we're done. If it had been, this could have been the rose petals if it had worked. I think people might have felt differently, but even without the fact that it failed horribly, it just wasn't as great of a stunt. In a Final Four that I think just didn't excite everybody in the same way for what they were going to do for their final performances, with songs that weren't the best choices, and just all in all, it was just like, rather than just like jaw on the floor, this is a disaster. And in some ways, I think, what?
I just want to say that, that season did have something that I believe one of the other seasons we have on this list is going to have. It has Bubba Sparks playing Lawrence Chaney. Wait, no, that's not it. Eureka. It has Eureka. And, that is what's important to note here. Eureka and Aquaria made for such an interesting set of finale competitors that when you had someone like Asia also in the mix, it felt like there were so many big personalities. Asia felt like she had to do a big stunt to be noticed. And she wanted to do a stunt that showed love and light. And she showed a stunt that showed the dangers of heavy lights.
Those butterflies went towards the light.
Butterfly in the sky.
We went for two different songs for Kings.
Yeah, it was just not epic proportion, horrendous thing. It was very much the reaction of Mo Hart's face of just, what is going on? It really, Sasha Valora had messed up the finale. The rose petal gag truly changed this idea of how performances can be done. But it didn't quite land. It also didn't really quite make sense with the song choices.
Didn't quite land.
No, they landed on the floor.
Take off. That was the problem. They did land. They really landed.
That I do think the season 10 finale is cursed. In the meme sense, it's cursed. It was just very shocking and unexpected because nobody knew what was happening. Nobody knew why it was happening. And then you just have Cameron just doing a good, honest lip sync, like no reveal, just stunts and splits and just doing what she does. And it's just Asia taking on Butterfly, and it's just, oh boy.
Okay, let's hit my third one. Let's just hit it. My third one's a little odd, and this one is because I didn't know what to do with this. So we watched Down Under, which I think is like my favorite international series. No offense to any of the others, but Down Under girls just really have like they have a coolness, like a cool vibe that really resonates with me, right? What I don't get, they send Art Simone home really early on. And then they're like, oh, it turns out Art Simone is too famous in Down Under drag. So we just have to bring her back. And then she just kind of limps to the finale. So if you want my third shocking elimination, it is not eliminating Art Simone at any point in season 1 that sticks. That means nothing.
This moment went viral.
Oh no, I'm still on
Yeah.
antibiotics.
We ate this up. A producer saying, "But you made it here," and Art saying, "That means nothing." Work. It's just the biggest problem I have with it is there isn't. It is just production shenanigans. There is no farce. There is no. The judges and I have deliberated, and we think this queen went home just a little too soon. There was nothing about it. There wasn't like a competition or anything. It was just Art Simone is a huge. It's a thing of Art Simone it was a huge name in Australian drag. Art Simone was internationally known as a makeup artist, as a drag queen, has literally come to the States multiple times to perform and tour a little bit. So it felt weird that they wanted to put her in the bottom, but then didn't want to protect her. It's just one of those things of production knew that they would probably enjoy Art because Art is a huge name and would bring in plenty of views. But then they don't do their production thing of protecting people.
I mean, we saw that happen on 8 with Naisha. Exact same situation where she was known and beloved queen. She'd won Continental by that point, I think. And then they just, every time she comes back on the show, they treat her like shit. But then they bring her back.
It's just,
You treat her like shit.
It's just a little bizarre, Art Simone's return, because I don't really think she should have been the bottom in the first place. Bindi wasn't good, but I don't think it was bottom 2 worthy. She at least made me laugh at multiple points. That's less than I can say about other people's performances. Yeah, it was just really weird.
Well, now I've sort of curated the next list as well, because I helped Kevin make his list, because he does all the hard work of putting the show together. So I put together a what's what of some moments that I remembered him being like, come on, to.
There's so many people. It's so hard for me to follow sometimes. So he took care of me a little bit for this one. But these are ones that I was genuinely like, yeah, absolutely.
So I want to start this off with the one that was just, it's the lipstick turn heard round the world.
And I also want
Ooh.
to say, right out the gate, I really, really, really love this image and this drag because it looks like so many of our mother's friends growing up. It's uncanny, but
Hey, Dayla.
it's me, I'm going home.
Oh my God.
Is what she would sound like if she was one of our mother's friends.
Yeah. She booted herself, Kevy.
And it's funny. We, at the top of this, when we were answering the big question of what makes a great shock elimination, one of the things we talked about is the person in power actually discovering that they are not in power. And this was one of the great moments of RuPaul having the game turned against her. You weren't on the list. I didn't tell you to do that. Oh, no, but it's great television, isn't it?
Yeah, I do think that, despite that shock on Rue's face, she ultimately was happy with how it worked out for the show. And, to me, this wasn't really a huge shock because I do remember thinking by this point, like, well, what more can she do? Like, there is a point where it gets a little bit boring just to see somebody really slay the competition to that degree. Like, even Sasha Colby didn't do this well. And because those are less concentrated seasons, there could be episodes where she was in the background a little bit more. And so like, she just seemed like a really strong competitor her whole season. Somebody that just like, wasn't, really having any faceplant moments. You have somebody like Caramel, who is a really strong competitor, but I think faceplants in a way that makes her seem very human. These are two great, if Caramel wins, I don't think her really bad episodes are going to be like, well, she shouldn't have won because she had bad episodes. It's going to be like she failed at some things and she succeeded at others and she's an amazing queen. Or you have the Sasha route, which is like she was strong all the way through. This was kind of next level, like, it is that fucking stupid Donald Trump line of you're going to get bored of winning. Never applied to that dude, but poor Dela, like in every way, this was the smartest possible thing to do. And I think the real shock was that she figured out what the absolute best way to like ascend to godhood in the game was.
And did it, because just being aware of the move doesn't mean like any one of these women can do any number of things and walk off and cause tantrums, but you don't. So having the gumption to do this, wow.
Listen, Bendela Christ, savior of the gays, and Morgan McMichael. This is it was the ultimate move against reality TV that works within beautifully in the reality TV format. It is Dela, in the 6 episodes she competed in All Stars 3, won 5 challenges. 4 of those were in a row. Unprecedented. And it's not even, production or Rue is making it seem like she's doing a lot better. No, she was actually just destroying people. Her level that she brought to the challenges of RuPaul's Drag Race, truly, Dela represents everything that RuPaul looks for. And this literally just left a power vacuum that, ultimately I think did allow Trixie to win. But it was just a shocking, unexpected, beautiful twist.
Beautiful twist.
RuPaul's face kind of says everything, because obviously RuPaul was very likely aware that Dela wrote something. Production 1000% said, hey, Dela wrote something on her lipstick. We have no idea what she wrote. And so I don't think RuPaul was expecting that.
No.
But speaking of things that I wasn't expecting, when we got into this, I've been so excited about getting to some of these international seasons and getting to celebrate some of these international queens. But the episode where Blue Hydrangea murdered eliminated Pangina Heels, but somebody told Pangina, react like you've been murdered. I'm only being silly.
Your audition for Scream UK.
I've had that moment where it's a lot of tears for eliminated, and I know exactly what I said. But Pangina's wails of pain are only made less crippling by her awareness of it and her very good sense about it now. But oh my god, that was shocking.
Just like, listen, we all out here and we crazy. So no one here is the picture of perfect mental health. So like, I get it. Reality throws you curveballs and sometimes you scream. But it's a lot to watch happen.
And hear in the distance while they're trying to play the outro music.
That was the most uncanny part, was still hearing the sobs as they're trying to play the outro music.
That is just the audio editing team doing her so dirty, and I'm so angry. I'm so angry they let that go to air, because they absolutely did not have to, and it's so unkind.
It is, but
it's very funny, but it's very
iconic.
Unkind.
Mm-hmm.
It's iconic television, and that is for sure.
Jonah, you look deeply disappointed in this choice.
No. It's this is one of the butterfly effects of Naomi eliminating Manila, is kind of this choice. There's a couple of problems that kind of go into a choice like this, where it really kind of left up in the air of like, oh, if Pangina doesn't win and Jimbo's not going to win this, who's going to win this? I respect Blue for making the choice for what she had to do to get herself the win. But however, Blue, I think, is a little bit has a little less conviction because she was trembling with that choice, and it. Naomi had no qualms and gave no F's about it afterwards, and we got the iconic quote, "Life's not fair." Blue, I think, felt mortified at realizing, oh, what did I just do? And again, this was another case scenario because Baga was going to send Pangina home as revenge for Jimbo, which I will say, regardless of saying whatever about Baga, that storyline to me was very hysterical. This "I would get revenge for Jimbo" was out of nowhere, was very funny to me. It was out of left field. It was out of pocket. But this is I don't know if a move like this really makes sense when the prize is nothing. There was not a prize. It was, oh, you're featured on a song with RuPaul. No, it's, oh, we're re-releasing a RuPaul song that you get to put a verse on. And Blue was not in the studio with Ru.
I only want to really echo what you're saying because, there's two different ways to talk about this, right? And we should sort of as gamers, some of us, we can kind of liken this, right? For me, if you're asking me, oh, Nico, I heard you're trying to 100% that game. I have a cheat code for you. I'd be like, oh, God, it has to be literally impossible. It has to be something where 0.0001% of players have ever gotten it. And without the cheat, I just can't do it. This ultimately did not feel like Blue won the season. There's a difference between having the best season and making the winning plays. Blue played a better game than she competed, if that makes any sense. If it were judged just on quality of look set and talent set alone, I don't know that Blue is the breakout winner. But I think Pangina really deserves another chance. And I know she's the host, but it's not the same.
I mean, I think that's one of the things that made it so wild was she is essentially another RuPaul. And again, for Asia, for this, and I mean, it's not just Thailand, although she is just the host of Thailand, but she is seen as kind of a pioneer in terms of hosting this show throughout throughout the world. She's an international peer of RuPaul. And I liked that the versus the world format being kind of smaller, more compact in every way. It felt like if I think that, the show is the competition, All Stars is kind of, the charity competition where all the stars come back and play, they played their game for you at a level where it's not, the risk isn't so heightened. They're not all newcomers. They have their names. Then after that, the next version has got to be versus the world, where the stakes are even less. Again, everybody has their name is already built up because it's an international edition.
RuPaul, some stars.
Yeah, I mean, kind of, but big stars, some lights, it's more that the highlight just isn't really there. So to me, this
street lamps.
There you go. This was really meant to be
streetlight people.
It was meant to be some fun, some kind of lighthearted, silly stuff. And then this moment just really took it to a place of not just was it not lighthearted, but the mistake that was made was ugly and sort of disrespectful. And, on the part of production to allow it to happen, on the part of Blue for not getting it. I don't know. It was just so weird. It was shocking. Again, my criterion is chaos. And holy shit, was this chaotic in every fucking possible way.
What a wonderful, wonderful transition if no one else has notes on this.
Please go.
Because, you can really tell that Nico ghost wrote my list and made sure to insert entries that were not on his own ding-old-dang list that he would like to keep on for us, please.
Hey, Mom.
Do you know So this past weekend, we have a few tales to tell about JoJo and I watching TV this weekend, and I just remembered this one. We were watching the Real O'Neill's Halloween episode, which is one of the ones that I mentioned in our Halloween marathon list. I'll pop that link in the comments. But you reminded me that Noah Galvin was there for the "I'd like to keep it on, please" moment. I forgot entirely, because it's also wild that was after the show was canceled. But I completely forgot he was there for that. So that was me having a new moment with this moment this weekend. That was delightful.
He leaned over to RuPaul saying, "Is she going to keep it on the entire time?" And I said to Kevo, for a full year, he didn't know that he literally got watched one of the most iconic moments in Drag Race history. He just had to sit on it, not tell a soul.
He leans over and is like, "Is this normal?"
Wow.
Yeah.
That's I think the thing about this moment that's so crazy. It was such an unbelievable thing. I was like, guys, is she going to keep it on? Is production going to let her get away with it? And all of a sudden, when it comes to that screeching halt, it's just never going to be the same. And that's, I think, the magic of a shock elimination. Nothing can ever be the same after that. You know, Valentina at best will always be the girl who messed up her golden opportunity. And that's not a bad thing. At worst, she's still one of the most talented drag queens on TV. But, you know, at best, she could have been RuPaul. And now she's RuPaul's international stunt double.
No, stop it. She could never have been RuPaul because RuPaul's never going to let anybody be RuPaul. You're going to have to pry that out of her cold, dead hands.
RuPaul's never going to die. So there you go.
Exactly. This was a weird stumbling block in a really, what looked like just a meteoric, just a straight up rise. But she became iconic for it. She came back for All Stars and translated the crazy that we see here into even funnier crazy that she then showed us that she's in on. You know, it really seemed like for a second, like, oh, this is like actually maybe a problem. And then she does the little thing about her coconut head and the fantasy that she knows. And then everybody fell in love with her in a completely different way. It's so funny. It's so good. And then it's amazing. Like, she took the stupidest mistake and just one of the weakest moments for a strong competitor. And I don't think she would have been successful in the way that she is now. And the host of Drag Race Mexico, which I think arguably as time goes on will be bigger than a lot of the other franchises. I don't think she could have turned her career into what it is, and the fan love into what it is, if she had just been successful this season. And I don't think she would have won.
And because from this end of it, it kind of feels like there was always going to be something like this, and something else
exactly
could have been worse.
Right.
So
if she had a really unimpressive finale, you know, she had made it all the way to the top.
Bath salts.
Yeah, I mean, it really could have gone a lot of directions. But, you know, if she had given us, you know, an Asia situation, I think we would all be like, oh, Valentina, oh, man. But she went out in a blaze of glory.
Those giant squirrels on the stage.
She went out in a blaze of glory and kept that fire going for a long time.
She sold masks. That's what you need to know. She was in on the joke.
Yep.
Jonah, you did not expect me to. So the first time I saw Valentina on the screen, I literally said, you cannot trust her. She is pure evil. She is the most evil person I've ever seen. And I don't back down from that. I'm just also in love with her now. But you did not expect me to literally die the way I did. I didn't recover for hours.
No, it was just a moment that was just so unprecedented. We've literally, and we still have not seen anybody do anything anywhere, I think, as close to challenging RuPaul in a way, saying, no, you love me, I can get away with this.
Dinner with
and
the
RuPaul
Fishers.
saying, my love is conditional. No, no, no. You may be on my stage, you may be dancing for me, but you will also be lip syncing for me. There's only so much I'm going to allow. if anybody else had tried to pull this stunt, I think they would have been immediately eliminated for trying to not follow the rules. The fact that RuPaul said, no, we're going to reset. You're going to do it without the mask on. Truly only because RuPaul loved her.
And wait, Jonah, but wait, how many words is the chorus?
7 words in that chorus, girl.
Okay. I've dominated this with 6 picks for one gentleman for long enough. So I think it's only time that we move over to 2 gentlemen who have been watching and navigating our drag racitude single-handedly. Well, I guess there's 4 hands between the 2 of them. But TK, your list is first in my document, so you're up next. And you already introduced one of these, and we talked about it a little bit, but Jonah did not get to talk about one of his all-time favorite queens. Jonah, we discussed the disqualification. Oh, I guess I don't even have to keep going. I said you love this person and they're disqualified. So you want to talk about the DQ, the Dairy Queen?
No, she doesn't do dairy.
Right, banana. She takes a banana out.
Listen, Willem is truly the reason I got into Drag Race. I was a fan of... I found DWV, and then I found the Beatdown, and then I was like, oh, Willem's on Drag Race, and I watched a compilation of Willem on Drag Race, and I was like, this bitch is funny. I'm going to watch Drag Race now. And literally, I can blame Willem for my obsession with Drag Race. Willem... You two don't know Willem well, but Willem is... Willem's a troll. And truly knows and understands television. Willem has been on TV and in the TV business. Is literally at this time, how many years ago? 11 years ago, a SAG member. She's been on, like, she knows how things are supposed to be done. She knows that, and Willem truly kind of understood. I think. There's so much to talk. I like even just slightly at a loss for words, just trying to like put everything together.
All right, but then talk about the banana in the hair. Talk about the banana in the hair.
This was. There's a lot of conflagration and rumors about what exactly happened, why it happened. I will say Willem has talked about how no matter what, she would have went to physical violence in order to get off. Because she had to go, she had other things to do. At this point, nobody really knew the cultural juggernaut that Drag Race was going to be. In the finale, RuPaul says to Willem, I actually thought you were going to kind of go all the way, and I think Willem probably would have given Sharon a really strong run for her money. Willem was pretty good at Drag Race. Willem is very funny. Willem's a great actress. She's had some of the best looks because she's a label whore, and she had also the best shoes. Willem had the best shoes. She still has the best shoes.
Wait, I just want to double check. Is one of the labels H&M?
No, she had legit Bob Mackie. She had she had some fake Louboutins, but she had real Louboutins. A good amount of real Louboutins.
She had those Versace shoes.
They're Versace. Breaking out the Westwood.
Can you be verse and ace?
Yes.
Yeah, my God. All right. Now, but Jonah, if you can sum up your love for Willem in one sentence so that TK can hit his next guy, what would you want to say to this picture of Willem looking just like Jessica Simpson?
Yes.
That's so funny you said that. That's who she did for Snatch Game.
Can't miss it.
Willem, I love you. This, I will say, is one of the most amazing eliminations ever. Again, never had something happen like it before. And also... No, nobody else should be touching it.
Is that a reference to a Willem thing?
You'll see it.
I will. I know I will.
Sure. But
I'm also already familiar with TK's next. That's a hiccup. I'm also already familiar with TK's next entry. I was kind of surprised by this entry because, like,
this is a me one. This I was shocked. This is just for me. This is.
I also think this goes to the heart of how, like, there are some lost seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just a factor. Yeah.
So my second one, who's right here on our show art for the day, is poor Miss Cracker getting eliminated in season 10. Now, this for me was a big shock because... So here's the thing. I did think she deserved to be in the bottom that week. And I always feel that if you're in the bottom, I need to be prepared for you to go home. But this is kind of going to reflect this week's episode insofar as, while I obviously was not like, I just didn't think there was any way. Like, she clearly was already in the bottom. So there was one way, you know. The fact that she was lip syncing for someone who was on their fourth lip sync, or was that only Cameron's third at that point?
That was Cameron's third.
Okay.
3 in a row.
Right. Sorry. Third in a row, which is usually when
Wow,
most
that's
people
a really
go home.
intense cycle.
Get out of here. And I really did not think that I was not impressed by Cameron basically at any point during the competition. And I remember thinking that I loved Cracker's lip sync of Nasty Girl and felt like Cameron's was really boring. And yes, very like she used her body and was very like floor humping, but like I just thought it was, you know, Cracker's lip sync was to me a little more compelling, a little better, a little I liked the energy more. It was more fun. So when I looked at all the factors, I just didn't see any way that Cracker was going home. And then on the What You Packin' after the show, Michelle specifically sits her down and is like, you know, you went home because that is such a sexy song and you played it campy. And I thought that was the biggest fucking cop-out lie, piece of shit excuse. And, you know, this was just kind of, you know, it took me 10 seasons, but this was where I really got... Actually, that's not true. It happened with Pearl. Like, when a cute boy is going to be popular, that will last you as long as they can possibly milk it, because that attracts a certain kind of eyes on the screen that tend not to go away, and a certain kind of, you know, very horny fandom. But it was just so insane because I guess the difference with Pearl was that I don't feel like anybody really liked Pearl or anybody else that season. I think we like them all now, but that season, while the season was airing, nobody was excited about anything except that Pearl was a cute dude and that Miss Fame was like too beautiful to be on this show or on this planet. With season 10, it just seemed like everybody loved Cracker and she was killing it. And as gorgeous as Cameron was, it was just kind of like a gorgeous dud. So I don't know. This one killed me. I was really bummed about this one. I thought Cracker was going to make it to the finale and have a really good finale. I did not think she was going to win, but I did really think that she was top 4 material.
So this is when I was looking at the list and I saw this was on your list, TK. I was like, yeah, this is there's especially this episode is really weird. It had what they do when it comes to the makeover challenge, which they, funny enough, just did the previous episode, with very nebulous criteria. This idea where some of them had to reuse some outfits from a thrown away runway, which is why 3 of them look like they're from the prehistoric era, because 3 of them wore this thrown out runway that they weren't going to use, and them being like, these don't match, I don't like this, was really bizarre. Also to be like, you didn't open up about yourself more, you didn't read yourself enough, why have you talked about all these things that you hate about yourself more, was really bizarre as criteria for a challenge. I like, truly, you didn't open your soul enough. Oh, you're in the bottom. Really weird. Cracker also had this very did well in a lot of challenges and was in the top for like I think 5 or 6 challenges, which is a good amount of challenges to be in the top for, even if you don't win. But it was just kind of felt like production never quite knew exactly what to do with Cracker. And because Cracker and Aquaria already kind of squashed their beef that, like, we're not doing the storyline, we're not doing the twin thing, it's not happening. As much as production tried to goad it out of them, they were like, we're not doing this. I think production was like, no, we don't want you. We don't know what to do with you anymore.
You don't fit the storyline we intended for you. Oh my God, they Delta Burked her.
So, I do think this was pretty shocking because, like you said, TK, Cameron had already that was Cameron's third lip sync in a row. Cameron didn't really have a big storyline, and Cameron's talked about how, I don't know if Cameron specifically said it, but I know Cracker in her review show talked about how Cameron at least said at some point, I'm not going to give production anything they could use against me. So a lot of the times you don't see Cameron because Cameron didn't give them anything to make a story out of. That's not what Cameron wanted to do. And it's one of those things of, well, then what is the purpose of this person? What are they fulfilling? Cameron, I think, is a great dancer and a great performer, but it did feel a little, okay, we kind of seen these moves before. Okay. And I had seen Cracker's lip syncs online. I've seen a couple of her personal mixes that she does, and I've enjoyed them as well. So I was like, okay, this is Cracker's first time in the bottom. She'll do something funny. And I agree with you. That's such a BS thing to be like, this is such a sexy song. Why did you camped it up? I liked what Cracker said in the confessional. How I got into this competition was my wit, my humor. This is if there's any time to use it, it'll save me here if it's going to save me. And yeah, this was a hard elimination.
And I just want to also say that I think there's something about the idea that it's something that, not to hyper personalize, but something that I really love about the camping place I go to is there really just kind of is a general celebration of a lot of different kinds of queer and not just different body types, which is so important. Please, please, please. I'm not saying that at all, but there's also an element of cultural interpretation that I think we leave behind when we say we should embrace, I think what I want to say is instead of saying, don't say no femmes, fats, or Asians, we should be saying, and what are the elements of Asian queer culture that are being overlooked by the community? And let's showcase and spotlight those. Fat phobia is really not cute. Bears are also sexy. Let's show sexiness of, the bear community. And that's something that I really feel like I see in my queer world that I really, really feel like RuPaul's Drag Race is still struggling with from time to time. Ms. Cracker is a type of, and I hope this comes out as loving as I mean it, but Ms. Cracker is a type of very sexy New York boy that I find very, very, very unbelievably handsome, and I think he is stunning. But I can see where they don't know how to use someone who does not fit the Taylor Swift definition of a pretty white girl. And it's to the detriment of the queer community and the Drag Race fandom that they, especially at this point in time for the show, but I still don't think quite yet, have understood how to interpolate the beauty of other cultures and people who maybe don't fit that primary body type or face structure. So I just like Ms. Cracker a lot.
Me too. That's why it's on my list.
Oh, but you got one more on this list. You got one more on this list, and I have to be honest, it's one that I'm really looking forward to rewatching this one because I've seen it, yes. And I know it. I know the moment, but yes. I started more obsessed with Alaska than anything, and kind of fell out of love with her because she's kind of a corporate shill, and
although now she's kind of gone all the way back around and is, she has the big alternative to World of Wonder, and I think really by sticking with Willem has basically burned her bridges at World of Wonder.
Well, so she's another Rue option. She's another corporation now, and that's amazing because she employs hundreds of people, and that's a beautiful thing. But
probably dozens.
I like that. Okay, that's fair too. But I like the painter more than the gallery owner. And there's nothing wrong with being a gallery owner who paints. But please don't tell me you're still a painter when the thing you spend 21 hours a day doing is gallery owning. And that's where my heart broke with Alaska. So if you would please get into this moment, it would really help illuminate some of what I don't know that I've interpreted yet.
So yeah, I mean, it is the All-Stars 2 elimination of Tatiana by Alaska
I love you, girl.
over Roxy Andrews. that comes with
It's
this
Skin Roxy, so who cares?
this insane monologue that Alaska gives, where she says, you know, one of these queens is just talented and did amazingly well, and I love her. And one of these queens lent me this shirt that I'm wearing, and I'm saving shirt queen, Roxy Andrews. Roxy had consistently been in the bottom. She just really showed that this was not for her. And like, I was one of those people that was way too hard on Roxy in season 5. It was a really big learning experience for me to understand, to not be one of those people that sees Drag Race and sees somebody getting a villain edit or playing into a character or just doing whatever and then deciding to hate them. Because that is like 1/10 of 1% of their story. The thing that I really realized, and I'm so glad I learned this early on about Roxy, is that she is a drag queen's drag queen. She is who every single queen says, you know, if I'm in Miami, the person that I want, or is it Orlando? If I'm in her area, the person that I want to go see is Roxy Andrews. She's incredible. She's such a presence on stage. I don't think Roxy's very good at Drag Race, but that's fine. There are so many successful queens who are not good at Drag Race. There are so many successful queens who don't go on Drag Race.
Isn't that the whole point of Florida, being really hot and really talented, but not particularly good at anything?
Texas as well. You know, I did not begrudge Roxy the fact that she was not really doing well. It did not make me think less of her. In fact, there were times like the Reggie Wrote You verse where it's so stupid it goes around the bend, and it's kind of cute again. It's funny, like the fact that she's even showing up and giving her all, even though like her verse is noticeably worse, and she's just Roxying it as much as she can. Really, really respect that. But she was in the bottom consistently. She was not as competitive as the other queens. She should have gone home. This was a really perfect moment to let her go with grace and dignity, and to lift up a queen who had done incredibly well, who I don't think deserved to go home the first time that she was eliminated either. But, you know, this also could have broken up this pattern of if you return, you cannot go very far. Like, because I think that is a bad rule. It's kind of like we have to judge the way the judges judge. I think the girls kind of decided this, and it's not how it needs to be. I just all around, it was really shocking. I sort of thought at this point, you know, especially with how much Alaska said she wasn't doing Relaska Talk stuff, I really was not expecting this. I thought it was a very weak backboned move. And honestly, maybe the bigger shock is that Katya was going to send her home too.
Mm-hmm.
Katya, no. Okay, real quick. Did you see me do it for you, by the way? I did it for you.
Wait.
What?
So that was for Snatch Game in week 2. Katya had.
Oh, she did have Roxy this time. You're right. Yes, thank you. Yes, you are absolutely right.
Wait, are you saying that when it comes to Katya, the name on everybody's lips was gonna be Roxy?
What is this joke? No one gets this joke.
Chicago. He's doing Chicago.
Chicago musical number. Oh my god. I didn't realize I was the only gay person on this show. All right.
Yeah.
The other thing I think about it is it does highlight the nature of something that I don't think the show does quite so much anymore. I do think that maybe a lot of the girls still play by friendship favoritism rules, but something that I've seen from the best competitive girls, like a Candy Muse plays the game. I mean, legitimately, she's one of the best game players on the show. To people who I think just sort of luck into their best position. I think you understand, like maybe Cameron Michaels. I think you understand how you're seen by fandom. And I think you understand how your every move, which is why Cameron didn't speak, which is something that, you know, Alaska made this decision where she eliminated a talented queen. I just don't think we see that quite as much now based on friendship. People know what that fandom is like. Jonah, you know, what do you think about the nature of the shifting ballot or vote cast from somebody like an Alaska in an All Stars 2 to a now?
it was. Listen, let's be honest. If we're going to applaud Naomi for playing the game, we also kind of have to applaud Alaska, who. Alaska is somebody who's talked about this. Is just very competitive. Alaska wanted to win. Alaska went into All Stars 2 with I'm either winning or I failed. It doesn't matter if I make it to the finale. It doesn't matter if I'm in the final lip sync for
I will
whatever.
PayPal you my kidney right now if you vote for me.
Alaska is just a very competitive person and really wanted to win. Also, as evident by the season 5 finale, where she's very visibly upset, and I don't mean to mock, but it is very entertaining in a way that we don't see anymore. I will say, you have to respect it in the sense that Roxy wasn't performing as well as people maybe wanted her to, maybe as Roxy wanted to. Let's be real. Tatiana was the bigger threat. It's easier to it's easier to justify this is my friend, she lent me this shirt, than it is to keep somebody who's the bigger threat that you might potentially lose to. It's unfortunate, and Alaska made that choice, and whether it was the right choice or the wrong choice, who knows? Alaska won the season. I think Alaska is just Rue's protege. With the amount of stuff that she does and her own stuff, Drag Queen of the World, the Mom Network, she kind of really is RuPaul's protege. She is a mini RuPaul in her own right.
But protege usually means you trained the person, not the person does it to spite your very existence till there's nothing of you left.
But listen, real hot take. I don't even think Roxy should have really been in the bottom that week. I don't think she had a top product, but the product was fine. It kind of should have been Detox. The product didn't make sense. Tatiana's also didn't make sense. It was also just a weird, dumb challenge. Make a product for DragCon was dumb. But yeah, this was just one of those. It was a symptom of this wasn't the strongest person staying in the competition. This was a specific calculated move of Roxy's my friend. She lent me this shirt. She's also a little bit less competition right now.
Given that Alaska is the one who sets up the initial rules of voting with the critiques, and she's the one who, when RuPaul asks about it, she makes the joke about the oath. But they do go to her because she is the first person who has to make the decision. And she really indicates that that's how she's going to go. You're totally right. Like, she clearly eliminated competition. I just wish she'd had the backbone to say it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
I think she could have had a Naomi moment. Like, if she had done it in season 2, if she'd been like, I'm setting things up so that we eliminate along the lines of the judging, and then suddenly was like, no, I can't do this. I'm like, this girl is too good. I think that would have been a pretty... I think people still would have loved her, but I definitely, my enchantment with her dimmed significantly after this.
Well, let's talk about an enchanting list provided by Jonah. Now, Jonah, your list has 3. Wow. One of the things I love is that we haven't talked about 2 of your seasons.
One of them.
Oh, we haven't. We did. Okay. Yep. You're right. It's so many seasons all run so close together. So I'm really excited. Take it away.
So first on my list is a queen that I think kind of had everything to make it to the top 3, but it really, especially from the Meet the Queens, we kind of all thought, oh, this person that has to be a shoo-in. This queen gives off everything that Drag Race is looking for, and it felt like production really kind of didn't care and kind of assassinated this person's character. My first person I wasn't expecting this person to go home so soon, is Max from season 7. I saw Max really making it to the top 3, and it just kind of felt like production didn't know what to do with Max. And they were kind of hell-bent, at least on the main show, of protecting Max's identity. Supposedly, Max might have been a little bit more of a diva than they let on. I do not know. I really cannot confirm, deny anything. I was not there, clearly. But season 7 is so wild because the main show and Untucked really portrayed 2 completely different seasons. And this was a queen that, up until the point of her elimination, was the front runner. She had 2 challenge wins. She was really strong in a lot of the acting and comedy challenges. She knew what to do. She had a very specific silhouette and idea. I can understand them being like, we need to see a little bit different. They never tell a queen who only wears blonde, we need to see you in other colors of hair. They never tell a queen who wears brown or black that we need to see you in another color hair. They don't do that. She like gray hair, let her like gray hair. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I understand that Drag Race, we need to see more versatility. I get that they want that. I let a queen just wear what the fuck they want and just judge it for as it is.
This is also inherently versatile because it's not a style a lot of queens do in the first place. So like,
no, she was going for this Hollywood starlet, this very 1920s 1940s glamour, and especially when she was in Snatch Game, she definitely should have been in the bottom 2. But production was so hell-bent on protecting Miss Fame, they put a lot of, in a funny joke, put a lot of their chickens in that basket for Miss Fame. And I think Miss Fame is a very talented and amazing queen, but she's not good at Drag Race. Miss Fame just doesn't have the skills that they often look for on Drag Race. And they really just wanted to keep her going. And to be fair, at that point, at that history, Miss Fame really was, look-wise and makeup-wise, on a completely different level than many queens. Katya has talked about how she did some sleuthing before getting on season 7, and learning about Miss Fame, she was like, I hope Miss Fame did not be there, because she was that intimidated by someone this beautiful, this like knows how to put a look together, the makeup skills, everything is correct, except for a lot of challenges. It just felt like Max had a lot of things that they look for, but they did not care about it. And her being eliminated. Also, I did not like how they treated her needing a slight break. She had a problem with her corset. She couldn't breathe. They gave her some water. RuPaul asked her to sing a song to help calm her down, and they made it look like she was insane. And then they had a confessional of Miss Fame saying, I don't know if this is strategy. One of the worst strategies in the entire world. It was just really unceremonious how they kind of treated this queen in their elimination.
Yeah, I mean, and I think, it's sort of unfortunate when you're trying not to be niche, but you think of, your unique it thing, your Max factor, as a ubiquity that is also transformative. It's tough because people have a reaction to that. People pigeonhole performers by one thing they did. Kevin and I were just finding out there was a guy who was super famous for doing JFK impersonations, but it wasn't all he did. But because he was most famous for doing JFK impersonations, after JFK's assassination, his career ended instantly. And it had nothing to do with his talent level. So, I think it's really unfair that even now we're still seeing a queen, told your signature look is a problem. I don't know.
I think it was also that she really did not have the versatility. Like, it's not just the wigs. It was that, when you look at somebody like Jinx also tries to do kind of old Hollywood, older MILF stuff. But if, she did the Dia de los Muertos look, and it was a little costumey, but she could change it up. I think Max's refusal to change it up was, and this is not why, I was surprised that she was eliminated too, but I could see some of the justifications that they were using. I just didn't really agree with them.
I'm tricked to tell.
You're ready for your wig. I think Joni, you pointed to something that is kind of important for this season, which is they kept Fame on for so long because they really didn't have a lot of good conflicting personalities, and a source of chaos wound up being, and chaos and conflict wound up being, not Miss Fame as a jerk or a bad person or a mean person, but she was just so much noise that it was a problem in episodes.
She felt like a stick in the mud.
Yeah, like a stick in the mud. She would come off as self-absorbed, which she clearly wasn't meaning to be, but she was becoming a problem because she couldn't shut up. And that was a villain when there was basically nobody else but Violet Chachki being a little snarky, and then the war between RuPaul and Pearl, which just like obviously couldn't keep going. So like all they really had for some serious conflict was fame, just faming real hard. And you know, it's one of those things you can only see in hindsight, but like they really did kind of sacrifice Max to keep her on a little longer.
And that, you know, that happens, lambs to the slaughter, if you will. It is just unfortunate that this is a queen that had a lot of potential, a lot of talent, and could have gone farther if they really wanted her to. But they were like, no, this is the fashion season.
Yeah.
Though I think Max had some really incredible looks that were like.
It's unfortunate you got Max at the minimum.
But speaking of people that talk way too much and were a villain, my next pick is someone who I will probably never stop talking about. When I tell you my shock that this person was eliminated so early based off of the Meet the Queens, the promo look, literally everything that happened in the episode up until the challenge and the elimination. My next pick is season 15, Irene Dubois, the first eliminated.
I get it. I do.
And, you know, you just said, TK, a lot of what can keep you on Drag Race is if you give them something to work with. Irene was willing to do that. Irene was ready to be the villain. Irene really was kind of just throwing shit out there and like antagonizing and pushing buttons because it's what she loves to do, and it was entertaining. And I'm like, I feel like we missed so much because they didn't want to keep her. Her talent show is also, I think, very divisive. I think it's a very specific kind of humor that a lot of people would find funny. A lot of people probably aren't. They also did not do her any favors to us, the audience. She pointed it out in her not Meet the Queens, in her Give It To Me Straight interview with Metamorphosis, that they changed the background music and then spliced in the middle of it, somebody saying, "This isn't funny." And that immediately kills any momentum for anything in comedy. Comedy, for it to be funny, really should be uninterrupted. But imagine someone's doing stand-up, and then you cut into an audience member, or you cut into another comedian being like, "This guy's jokes suck," and you immediately go back to the set, and it's like, "Oh, you've ruined everything about it." Irene's elimination was so shocking to me because you have somebody who was willing to give such good television that they were like, "Nope, goodbye." It just felt very weird that I feel like on a different season, Irene would have made it farther because she makes good TV and she has the potential to make good TV. And I think she's very talented. But on season 15, they were like, "Nope, not good enough right now."
Which is so funny given who stayed. I mean, right off the top of my head, I love her, but Aura never gave and could have left then, and it would have been fine. I think one of the huge losses with Irene, too, was I don't think since Bob and season 8, I think we have lost the understanding that reading and being shady is part of the culture for a lot of people, and what can come off as extremely mean is just and like Bob and Thorgy are the best example. Bob and Thorgy say some horrible things to each other on their season. Bob and Thorgy love each other so much, that's never in doubt. You know, Thorgy, for as crazy as she went, has always said that was her personality reacting. She doesn't begrudge Bob. She loves Bob. And increasingly, fandom started to lose any understanding of the fact that, one, this is a TV show, 2, you're not getting the whole story, 3, this is part of the culture, and like people can be very shady to each other and love each other. And immediately Irene and Mistress gave you all of that, and you could see that they were prepared They came from deep drag cultures where that is a lot, and that's not healthy for everybody. Some people want to do the art form and can't handle that, and that's okay. It's a big tent. There's room for everybody. You go to the other side of the tent. But those two were ready to do that, to show that, and to teach the sugars and spices of the world, like, no, we don't hate each other. We were just having a little moment. Like, we were just joking around with each other. And I think that between seasons 8 and 15, we just saw less and less of that. And for fandom, so many people, especially young people, thought that if everybody wasn't getting along and being nice, they were enemies. And that was kind of one of the biggest shocks to me. Was as soon as I saw that storyline, I was like, they're adjusting because they've gone kind of too far into this realm of politeness. And without Irene there, I think Mistress was never had anybody to really play off of, to show that, like, where she comes from, she was comfortable with how she was and how she related to people. And we got a great side of Mistress where she really took sugar and spice under her wing. I just like saw a really hilarious Spaces on Twitter where it was a bunch of the queens and it was led by Mistress, and she was just like really funny and sweet. She clearly loves them all, but she has a very shady personality. And I just think on top of losing Irene, we lost a big chunk of that personality because they had to really adjust for Mistress kind of being alone out there.
Well, and I do just want to interact with, part of it has to do with the inability of production to actually reflect proper culture in that regard. I one time got into an internet fight with somebody when I said, the problem is finding what version of Storm to do. You're never going to get Storm down pat in a 4-hour, 2-movie thing. And they said to me, you sound like the dumbest human I've ever met. I've read The Color Purple, and I've seen it, and I've seen the musical. You're telling me that Storm, some freak X-Man, is so complicated. You think she's more complicated than Celie in The Color Purple. And I replied, I do think that a character with over 100,000 pages of material to mine is possibly a character who has slightly more sides and nuance to show than a character that you can express beautifully in a medium that was meant to reflect it in that type of timer. Now, that's kind of the problem when it comes to reading. There really does have to also be the talking afterward and no, I think that's a really good outfit. I love that cut. That's a really good cut. But that's not interesting to hear. And so that's not going to go on TV. So what you get is all the stuff where Thorgy is going nuts. And you get the things that are funny reads from Mistress. But what they leave out is the person saying, no, I really do love that person. They just leave I don't know, that person looks so stupid. And you're like, number one, you're a white person from Dunellen, New Jersey. You don't talk like that. Number two, you would not want someone saying that about you. And so the problem becomes not reading culture in many ways, but production's inability to accurately reflect a culture that is not meant to be contained in 44-minute blocks.
Yeah. Many queens who grew up in the club scene, who grew up doing a lot of at bars and these clubs and all these different things, talk about how when you're in the dressing room, if you're the queen not being read, that means they don't like you. Like if the people aren't throwing light shade at you, if they're not reading you, that means they don't like you. You don't want to be that queen. That means that they have a problem.
It's like if they don't call you a faggot in the locker room.
Exactly. You really do kind of highlight the problem that I think a little. There's just a couple of problems with Drag Race where as the fandom increases, but we skew. I don't want to say heavily, but enough younger that it does become a problem where these young people who don't really understand the culture and their only real exposure to drag is Drag Race, and they think they're being mean and rude and they don't like I don't like them because they're being an ass, and it's no, that's part of how they talk and treat each other, especially people like Irene and Mistress who grew up in these very southern, this very pageantry, this very big hair, big makeup, big personality rooms where you have to learn how to hold your own. It's just one of those things where there's a definite dissonance between the actual culture that these queens come from and are bringing to the TV versus what these fans think the culture should be, and is. And
I think that's even part of my point I was making before, though. That's what a lot of toxic masculine space is. No, if somebody doesn't call you a dumb faggot, then you're not really on the team. That's a way we say, we love you, idiot. And like, they call each other fat. And like, that's possibly something that even if it is a part of a community, it is kind of toxic. And it is something that could still make people uncomfortable. So I do think to some extent, it is a changing tide that asks that my generation not be so protective of our cultures, and to sometimes think about that there is a changing zeitgeist.
It's a
So,
two-way
it's a
street.
balance, yeah.
Exactly. I
So
get what you mean completely.
There needs to be some allowance for, it is a toxic thing to say that these girls, like, because what we hear is funny joke, but then people go, no, I really have back rolls. Oh my God, I'm so fat. Oh my God. And like, that's just something we do need to be careful of in a world where we hold other people to these same standards.
You
And
could just
so-
not make fun of her back rolls in the first place, and we could cut out the middleman, is kind of what we're trying to say. We could go in that direction, and you could find better things to throw shade about, better ways to throw shade. We can
Yeah.
all evolve together instead of being like, you're too sensitive or you're too mean. Like, it can be somewhere more trying to find a compromise, I think is what you're trying to say.
Yeah. Just, you know, as the gay community begins to develop mental health awareness, some stuff is going to change. So just a thought. But we have a little bit more. We have one more thing on your list, mister.
yes, we do. We have a queen who I'm a huge apologist for. I'm a big fan. I love someone who kind of production for some reason didn't pay no mind to. And for me, another season 10 queen, another season 10 elimination, Mayhem Miller. I am a big May May fan. I think she's very talented, great performer, really knows what she's doing. Has been doing drag for years upon years. And it's one of those things where I look at Mayhem and where Mayhem, you know, grew up in California, and where a lot of queens get booked to do the show. And I imagine a lot of it is, or when's it going to be my turn? When is it my year? Because Mayhem didn't get cast out season 10, and that's 9 seasons. I don't know if she auditioned for season 1. I don't know which season she auditioned for, but it is one of those things where she's seeing her best friends. She's seeing these queens that she loves and she's, you know, so close with, and she's not being cast. And then she gets on season 10, and they give her this great first episode, and then nothing. Production just kind of dropped Mayhem, didn't want to do anything with her. It felt weird. Maybe I have, you know, rose-colored glasses where I just love her too much to maybe see that maybe she wasn't the exact best at Drag Race. The challenge she went home with, she was nowhere really near the bottom for me. She was saying she was, you know, the best, but she wasn't really in the bottom. There were plenty of other queens who could have been in the bottom, but they just, they gave her a storyline in the first episode, and then it felt like, well, they didn't have anywhere to go with it, so they just didn't do anything with her. And she's just a queen who has so much talent in my eyes that I don't understand why they just weren't more interested, especially with her connection to so many amazing LA drag queen, or Californian drag queens. I shouldn't say just specifically LA. It just felt weird that they just didn't really want to do anything with her.
Once you're on the show, you're eligible, I guess, then for the tour and and the Vegas residency and being a part of even an All-Stars in some capacity, maybe, and not to be a businessman about it when I kind of came down on businessman, but maybe perhaps it's kind of exactly what you're saying. When was it going to be her time? Well, she's kind of worth a ton of money to them no matter what. They'll always be able to book Mayhem Miller. Maybe it wasn't that important to celebrate her on the show once they know they have her with her friends, when she's recognizable, and they're going to be paying her bills. I wonder if it was just an acceptable loss in a really gross way.
I do kind of think you are on the right track. I don't think she was very good at Drag Race is the thing. I think that for, you know, as important a staple of a drag family that has a very strong presence on the show as she was. She just was not, that was the storyline. The storyline was all these other people from my family have been here. Now it's finally my turn. That's a really good start, but then your next thing has to be like, and I'm insane. You got to have something. And Mayhem was just very sweet and very ready to do, but didn't have a really strong personality. Immediately she's good for an All-Stars because that same thing still applies to her. She does show up on All-Stars, so, clearly it worked. And I just, some queens are just not gonna be the best for Drag Race. But yeah, like you, I was very aware going into it that she was such a big name and that it was such a get that she was finally there, that it was really a shock that she left so early. It wasn't, if I didn't have that information, it probably would not have been the same type of shock. But because that was kind of like her huge storyline, that's what made it shocking.
And I guess I have particular feelings about queens that they use as lambs to the slaughter. To keep it full circle with later what we'll probably talk about. It just feels like it's one thing if it's like, I kind of understand what you're doing. You're trying to make your story, and that sucks. And it's not to say that if it's a queen that I'm maybe not particularly driving with, it's okay. But it does feel like, no, you're protecting other queens. We see what you're doing. We know what you're doing. You think it's her time. They're like, no, okay, but it's okay for her to go at this point. It's just I just really like May May, and it was just I definitely, the name recognition I think is definitely something that comes into factor about it. Of she is this highly lauded, highly respected queen who's been doing drag for so long that it is a little. I really did want her to do a lot better, and maybe she didn't do as well as I'm trying to make it out to be. But it also did feel like a little bit like production was like, no, we're done. We're good. No, it's okay.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I don't think she did badly to the point that I was expecting her to be in the bottom or to be eliminated. I just don't think she was so magnetic that I was like blown away by her.
That's fair.
Yeah. But I agree. I completely love her, and I've seen her do live shows. I think she really is fantastic. I just some people just don't do well on Drag Race, and that it is the blessing and curse of this show because it has exposed people to so much great drag and so many great people, but it has not always done the best. And of course it hasn't, because its brand is that it is the gatekeeper of drag. But we all kind of have to know better and remember that like so much stuff exists outside this show.
Well, we're actually going to keep talking about something that exists within
Yeah, we
inside
are.
the show. Within inside, I gotta go. Well, within inside, it's just really hard to say within inside. So, within inside the show. But we're going to do that in just a few moments. We're going to take a quick break, and then when
we're taking a break.
Oh,
Oh, Jesus. This isn't so much a shock elimination as it is shock at being eliminated. And
that was almost on my list, but it was not a shock.
No,
but it's her shock that's delicious.
Yep, it was so good.
I was ready for this. Love you guys.
all of us knew that
Love
Fred
Pink.
would barely be
Love
used the next day. Okay, but so we're gonna take that quick minute break. We're gonna come back, talk UK, talk some other stuff, have some fun. It's gonna be a great time. So what you want to do is you want to stick around. You want to hit like, you want to hit subscribe, you want to leave a comment, you want to follow us on social media. Have a good time with it, and we'll see you in a minute.
I just remembered. Sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Remember away.
No, I'll just hit commercial for us. It's good. I'll do it on my own time.
I want to talk about some bigger characters too here.
All right.
I'm really excited to do this. We've been playing a game, bracketeering, where it's basically what if we take a March Madness bracket and we go a little wacky with it, right? We have a little bit of fun. And the reason it's a little wacky is because at the end of a March Madness bracket, you still have basketball player versus basketball player. At the end of a bracketeering bracket, I'm just going to keep using that same example.
It's the best example.
It wound up the cast of Modern Family versus Batman. So it you sometimes wind up with
just absolute nonsense, and we wouldn't have it any other way.
And
man, I haven't seen these screen caps for a long while. Like I forgot how cool Ghost Rider looks back in the day.
We've got some good art in this, and yeah, a lot of it really took me back.
And so we came up with a list of characters who have never had their own formal animated series. They have had appearances on stuff, and I learned my lesson a little bit on what counts as an animated series. Listen to me well. Motion comics, you are not animated,
You're not an animated series. That's why we call you motion comics and not animated comics.
Anyway, I lost that battle. So I changed a couple of things at the last second. But we have some really cool matchups. We're going to talk about some really cool characters if you're game for it, Jason.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, then let's kick it off with two of our favorite characters in the entire world. Neither Daredevil nor Ghost Rider have ever had a proper animated series. Daredevil being my fave boy, and Ghost Rider being like TK's fave guy out of nowhere.
Suddenly, now that's a thing. I don't know how that happened.
Jason, where do you stand on the Devils? Wow. Kevo is absolutely one in a jillion. So we have.
I made those for the experimental Halloween marathon broadcast that we did last night. I made special little back to the action. So I was like, let me load that in real quick. So yeah, that was fun. Happy Spoopoween, as Bruno pointed out. Was not expecting you guys discussing Drag Race on All Hallows Eve, but I guess it's on theme that it's about elimination scares.
And that it's about being in a good beat and knowing how to look good when you walk that runway. And let me just say, okay. this
Jesus,
season,
we haven't even discussed the UK episode yet.
That's what I'm getting to.
Now, so that was
the transition.
That was
That's
the bulk
the
of
build up.
That was the bulk of the shock eliminations portion, and now we're on to our regular discussion. And Nico is going to introduce us to
this week's Drag Race season 5 UK. Let me just say, I feel like I spent the last few weeks watching the Why It's Banksy show, and I feel like they're trying to be like, oh, also Tamara, also Caramel. Hey, if you're into it, Kate Butch, right? But then all of a sudden they're like, but don't forget Banksy's got to go. And I'm like, oh. And Banksy's elimination isn't even the part that gagged my dick the hardest. The dick gaggingest part of this episode for me was when Banksy goes, oh, but Rue, I am not leaving till I get one more walk down that runway. And Rue just said, you go on, girl. Like, oh, that was so good. That was such a great moment from Mama Rue. It actually really warmed me. It had the vibe that we always want from Mama Rue when these girls like, hey, your time isn't over. It's just over on Drag Race. And like to say, girl, if you want to walk one more time, you walk. Oh, that made me happy. But what did not make me happy was now Tamara and Kara are best friends, and Tamara Mel or Tuna Melt, whatever it is, and it's I don't know what's happening. Guys, please weigh in. Dying.
I don't think you need to worry. I don't think we're going to get to the end of this season without another blowout between them. And I thought it was fun to watch them be in sync for a minute. Part of the fun of two people who know each other that well has to also be seeing them work well together. If they never have another fight, I will be very disappointed. But I did enjoy them having a moment of like being in sync, because it shows that like this is worth something. This is actually, this is true. They are sisters in that very real sense of they live together, they love each other, and sometimes they are so on and sometimes they are so off. And if all we saw was them fighting, it would just feel like this strategy that we talked about, I think, is part of production this season, which is to make this show a little more like America, to have more conflict, to have more blowouts. And I'm just glad we got to see the other side of it. It does make this feel worth it. What are you giggling about up there?
I feel like tomorrow's commentary went on it would be like, you look like two of a kind. Two of a stupid kind.
with that goose laugh.
Which I actually really, I know I gave her kind of a hard time because I don't think no one on the planet likes anyone who laughs at their own jokes that much that isn't their boss. You know what I mean? And she just laughs at her own jokes so much that it actually bothers me. And that's the whole thing. Whole reason I don't like her. I'm not even fucking with you. But the last 2 weeks, she's really grown on me. Like quite a lot. And I really enjoyed the two of them playing together. Their dancing was so tight. It was so good. So I wasn't making fun. I just, she has such a unique delivery. It is a very memeable caricature of self.
Yeah. And that's not your fault.
You can't even see your teeth. Oh my God. So whether Jonah, you want to start with because Jonah and Kevo and I watched like 4 seasons of Drag Race International over the last couple of weeks. So we saw some libraries that if they were the Library of Alexandria, they deserve to be burned.
Yes.
They were some of the worst readings I've ever heard in my life. It was real bad. And whether it's the library this week, it's the challenge, or it's some of the surprising ways the girls rose up. What were you thinking about this week?
So, one, this was as comparative to many other reading challenges. I was like, oh no, it's gonna be bad because they haven't been good in years. But no, I was pleasantly surprised that, unfortunately, outside of Caramel, who reading in that sense might not be the biggest strength, everybody kind of did pretty
better
decent.
at math.
And pretty good. when it comes to coming up with a funny joke or a quick little one-liner about someone. We got some really good lines this reading challenge, so I was really pleasantly surprised, especially with Down Under when a pit crew member won because it was so bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when it comes to the reading challenge, I'm always nervous because it's been up in the air when it comes to quality, if it'll be good or not.
You don't want it to be as tough to read as a CAPTCHA.
Yeah. But really enjoyed what was going on with that. And then the challenge, I love this musical. I think it's one of the best musicals we had. UK just has the best musicals. Point blank,
cool.
period. It was really, really adorable. I did not know pretty much anything about panto going into it. I know the term pantomime, what that means, but the actual culture of what a panto performance and play is, I did not know what it was going into it. And I really appreciated that they kind of took the time to kind of talk about the importance of it, what it's like, what it means, how for a lot of the queens, it was kind of their first introduction to drag and performance.
And bodiness and so great.
The actual most shocking part of this episode, besides this elimination, was RuPaul saying I'd never been to a panto before. And the way that RuPaul was like pissing and hollering and how much fun she was having, and all the calls to action. RuPaul loves a call to action. That I'm actually just surprised because I feel like she would love these, and I'm surprised between Alan and Graham that neither one of them was like, or even Michelle would be like, "Hey, you would really like this."
Well, yeah. RuPaul didn't get into musical theater at all until like 3 years ago.
That's very fair.
So, and she's a busy girl.
It just wasn't a twirl.
I also want to take this moment. I want to take this moment to plug a beautiful crossbreeding of all the things that we love. Grant Morrison released his first novel this last year. Maybe it was in 2022, or early 2023. But it's called Luda, and it is about a drag queen in a panto show. And, typical Grant Morrison, it is much deeper than that. It is kind of the Merlin and Nimue myth told in another way, but it is all in the backdrop of a show that is called The Phantom of the Pantomime, which it's a play within a play. They're doing Aladdin, but then they're also doing this take on Phantom of the Opera. Anyway, it's a really fantastic book. Morrison is absolutely brilliant, and I have never seen a panto show either, but I knew everything from having read this book, and I just love it a lot. It's a really fantastic book, and it made me really happy to watch this ep, given that I had read that relatively recently. And also, if you're an audiobook person, it's a fantastic audiobook.
It's lonely once on this island as a theater nerd.
The Lonely Island. You definitely did say Grant Morrison. My brain corrected that to Graham Norton, and I was like, "Oh, work! He wrote a novel. Good for him."
No, don't buy his book.
That would be a novel idea. Yeah, no, he reads these girls better than a lot of them read most episodes.
It's true. I really agree. I was biting my nails about this reading challenge. I had my finger on the remote ready to skip through it because sometimes they are that painful to watch. And, I knew I was like, skip through to Kate Butch because I knew that no matter what, we would be fine. Kate Butch was going to kill it. That was correct. But I was, like I said, I think Caramel is a goddess. She's absolutely amazing. I love her confidence. There is definitely stuff she's not good at, and I don't think that means that she can't win the series or be a front runner. Like I said, some people's trajectory just is different. I love that, like I said, putting her up against Sasha Colby, I love that we're seeing two different ways that queens that have this confidence and recognition and this readiness to go into Drag Race can still be successful on the show. But yeah, she didn't do well. Banksy, I thought, had some really good reads. It was a really fun one, and it was refreshing that it wasn't a disaster.
Michael Mulroy's read of A Tinted Incubator.
Yeah.
Really, really good. A lot of them felt pretty fresh, which I enjoyed.
Yep.
So props to you, queens. Props to you, mama.
Thank you.
And I agree. This was really one of their best musicals in a long time. I think immediately you knew it was Dee Dee and Banksy.
I had Ginger in the bottom.
That is so insane to me. I didn't even love her performance. I didn't super care one way or the other, but the edit was so clearly that they were tickled by it. And the fact that she committed so hard to the character of the cow and the pronunciation, I absolutely understand being like, yeah, that was fine. But like, I immediately knew that they were signaling that she was good.
Oh, I thought Kate Butch put her on the ground.
I agree. I like Kate. I was actually shocked that
put her
Kate
in the
didn't.
Ground.
I really thought that it would not have worked without Kate's not leadership in terms of like the production, but leadership on the stage.
Yes, she set a tone. Everybody got to meet it. Yes.
And like they kind of even indicated that, but then they did not give her. I was surprised that Ginger was in the top. Absolutely. But, or that she won. But in terms of editing, I could clearly see they were signaling that she was doing well. And I was perfectly happy with the performance that she gave. But I was actually really shocked because I thought that the critiques and what I was seeing really indicated to me that if Kate had not been in that role and done as well as she had, I don't know if anybody else would have done as well as they did. And for that, I really thought she deserved to be the winner. But, we're telling a story here.
One, protect Kate Butch at all costs.
All costs.
Truly, I think production didn't anticipate it, but I do think Kate's kind of the breakout star a little bit in terms of just her wit and her comedy and her charm and how she comes across. I have two counterpoints to why I really don't think Kate won this week, but I don't agree with certain aspects of the critique and the judging. One, Kate's outfit really wasn't the best. Also, they reused this runway. We've had 15 queens rock this, and one queen has used actual mirrors. I get that they are maybe a little bit particular about mirrors because they don't want to show too much of production and lights and all this different stuff. They look great on Dee Dee, so I
don't understand why they didn't just say reflective runway. Because everybody had on something reflective, and that's fine. That's great. Mirrors are tough.
Like a bicycle. Reflective gear like a bicycle.
But one, I don't think this was the best Kate runway. I do agree. I did not like the cover. I thought what was under it was pretty cute. But maybe I needed to be amped up and just a little bit. Two, someone pointed out that the unfortunate part of Kate's role is it never led to any standout moments. I think she did great at setting the pace, setting the tone, and like everybody is saying, but there was never a moment where Kate stood out above everybody else.
Yeah.
And I do think you need those moments to help convince us of the win.
I would only argue that it is time that Drag Race start acknowledging the other ways that people can stand out.
Yes.
And like I said, like to be the person that is the linchpin, while you might not give you a moment where you belt out a cow tune, which don't get me wrong, I really did think that she committed to that role so impressively, but committing to being the leader in the performance, I think to me was a standout. I 100% see how they did not say that, like they did not indicate that, but I think they should say to their audience, sometimes being the standout is being the person that basically is carrying this thing on their back.
Truly. Do you think she should have been given more to work with? Because I think a comparable role that immediately comes to mind that got a lot of praise because she had a lot to work with was the Ziegler role in the Roulon Rouge or whatever it was called.
The one that Lady Camden did?
Yes.
Yeah. And that was also a narrator role where you didn't really necessarily have a lot of meat, but she did get a few standout singing moments.
That's basically a panto character, yeah.
Do you feel like maybe Kate Butch wasn't really given that same meat in this role, or do you think she just didn't take a bite?
No, I think she did, and she got it. I think they just did not give her the recognition.
I think a lot of that came down to Kate being called safe and not being in contention for the win. When Vicky and Michael did great, I thought Kate was miles above them in terms of what the challenge they were doing. Again, they did not. Nobody. Truth, be honest. Call a spade a spade. Let's get real. Nobody really did terrible. Yeah. This very much was, and that's the reason why there was only 2 people on the bottom. Nobody did bad. Really, nobody did bad, and this was just essentially just having to split hairs of being like, other people just happened to do better.
Yeah, they did say that.
I don't fully agree that Michael and Vicky did much better for Kate to be called safe and not be in contention for the win. Truly, up for the win should have been between Ginger and Kate.
If I can just give why I don't think Ginger hit it for me, she had that look on her face that they ding every time, where she was clearly thinking of her next step, her next note. She didn't emote. She hit the notes. And like, there is a difference between going and belting, and there's a difference between going and emoting. And like, Ginger did a really fine job, but they acted like she should have just walked right onto the West End. And like, I not like in a weird way, but like I've seen high school productions that like would have done more with the cow role, because she's not a cow actress. She's not a young person who's trying to develop this voice. So I'm not saying Ginger, but like they really did treat it like Meryl Streep showed the fuck up to sing about being a brown cow stunning. And I just didn't get the critiques.
Yeah.
Well, don't have a cow. No,
you got it, dude.
You're allowed
to
have We value all kinds of opinions.
We value all cows here.
We value all cows here.
Kind of knew that she was going to be in the top when I knew what role she had, because in the bumper, they gave the critique, you did so well while you were in that animal costume. To do so well in an animal costume like that. Which, can I get a consensus? Did anybody else think that the front half of the cow, like, it was going to reveal to somebody? Like, it was going to be Banksy or somebody? Like, it was just the front half of the cow just was there.
I actually sort of wonder if it was and they just cut it.
A little weird and bizarre.
Yeah.
Because when I saw the cow costume come out, I was like, oh, okay, so it's 2-person one. And one of the other cast members has to be in the front of the cow. No.
I wonder if they pulled one of the... Who got eliminated first?
Alexis.
Yeah, I wonder if they pulled Alexis after the unnamed queen went home, because it threw everything off, and they were like, you know, if we need this, we can have her back in sort of like a Dahlia Sin-esque moment. I really did wonder if there was somebody else under there.
Nice.
Just a pit boy.
I think from a narrative perspective, as TK's kind of was talking about and alluding to earlier, this really was, they wanted this to be Ginger's episode.
Yeah.
They were like, Ginger did well in the challenge. All right, give us some Ginger story, make it clear. Yeah. A very interesting runway. I still don't know if I liked it or not. It was something. She made a very bizarre choice. But she was also kind of selling it. So I feel like about it.
I liked it. I feel like if other queens had worn it, they would have said it was fashion. If it had had a label on it, and like another type of queen had worn it, they would have called it fashion. What?
And yet, I also think if a third type of queen had worn it, they would have been like, and I'm trying to think of an exact example, but I'm kind of only coming up with people from like Drag Race Canada. But if Chaos worn it, they would have been like, you look dumpy, you looked unfinished, you looked ugly. Because they get mean in Canada on Drag Race somehow.
Yes, they do.
But like, I do feel like, I don't know, when Robin wore it as a fur coat, as a jukebox, it was sexy. When Wheel of Fortune had it and then put letters on it and it was the board, I liked it for a number of years. You're very funny. But you know, I think it's.
More than anything, I thought it was so weird that they were like, "Where are your?" Like they were so mystified by it. They're under the fucking reflective gear, you jabronis. You know, and I get it. It was unconventional. Maybe it didn't work, and that's fine. But I feel like, I don't. It's the first thing it made me think of was Aja in the Comme des Garçons Gaga number, like similar type of like. I mean, you could technically see her hands, but I don't know. I didn't think it was that big a thing, and I don't think Ginger sold it, but I think it was a sellable garment. I just think that's not really her vibe.
It's a great example of how people are just so mystified by the dumbest of things.
Yeah, exactly.
And I didn't even think about it, but now that you're pointing out how marveled they were by it, yeah, it really was just. There's no arms, guys. Like, it wasn't even like I'm looking at this dress where like if there was the circle and she had to put her arm through a thing and stand like this at all times, maybe. But like, no, her arms are just at her sides and like in her dress. I did that with my hoodie in 6th grade all the time.
I'm cool.
That's normal. That's just
It was. I thought it was very odd that was such a sticking point.
Really shiny though. Very good colors.
In a collective 30 seasons of Drag Race all across the world, RuPaul still acts like this whenever she sees a queen does this. Like, she really gets she just loves it.
It's why we keep saying she's going to be best friends with Nico, because that's literally our bear. It doesn't matter how many times you've seen it before. You will literally... Oh, it's so exciting. Thank you.
Speaking of people that we would be friends with, Kate Butch had a joke this episode that Kevin pointed out made me scream, where she was like, Kay Surprise, Kelsey Surprise, drag name. We literally just do that all the time.
Kelsey Breeze.
And then they just did it
he also, Nico had the same reaction we got there, just so you know.
I also had the exact same reaction to resetting the computer would give them back magic during Loki.
Yes, you did. We'll get there. Yeah,
but I want to talk about the other queen in the bottom, Dee Dee, who I think, from what I've read and understanding, the audience seems to be having a disconnect with Dee Dee in terms of trying to connect to her and understanding who she is. I don't know if I fully agree with that, but I also understand there seems to be the generation Rue, the queens who get into drag because of Drag Race. I think there's a level of disconnect of, is this art form your passion, something you wanted to do, or did you really enjoy Drag Race and think, I could do that? Dee Dee, along with Caramel, actually are very Americanized for UK. Dee Dee really does a lot of drag sayings, and it's a lot of drag race, like someone who really studied Drag Race and really is a fan. It's how Dee Dee comes across. And I don't really think that's always sometimes a problem, but some people pointed out during this lip sync where Banksy was trying to emote in a way that I'm singing this song. Dee Dee gave the drag performance of the song.
Right.
Someone, and some people really enjoyed it. Obviously, I do think she won the lip sync, but some people were like, it feels like this is somebody who's watched Drag Race and is doing a drag show. This is what they would do to performance. I do think that's a little bit discrediting to her as a performer, but I also understand she doesn't come across like a lot of other UK queens.
And I love the way that your point feeds into what we've been saying for a few weeks, where it feels like this season is trying to emulate an American season. So that really does speak to our point, where maybe that's part of why she was chosen, where she is a bit different.
She really reminds me so much of Georges, in that, like, her saying that she'd never seen, not just a panto show, but she'd never seen a musical theater show of any kind. And a lot of times when she's like, I don't know that thing that like everybody knows. And it does drive me a little bit nuts, because I just feel like it's the same thing as like, I don't ever want to hear that you don't sew, even if you don't lie, because why did you go on without ever taking a sewing class? Lie, have some self-respect. But I will say the first time I have ever connected with her was the lip sync, and I think that was a really weird song choice. They love the Taste and Memory. Like, clearly this is a thing for UK where they're going to do musical theater numbers. That's fine. I think Banksy's performance was a 75. Dee Dee's was an 85. And given that Banksy has wins under her belt and has been such a charmer all season, Dee Dee has no wins and really has not, I think, connected with many people in the audience or many of the challenges or anything. It was really shocking that Banksy went home. But I will say, her just doing those little campy playing the strings, that's all you could do. And she figured out the one thing that she could do to make this song, which is a terrible choice, work. And I was a little disappointed in Banksy she just didn't go all out at all this episode. And given that she had just gotten the critique of like, if you'd given us more in this villain role, it was really a bummer that she just didn't give anything at all in this lip sync. And I really appreciated that she wanted to do it emotionally, but it just didn't work. And I got to give her a lot of respect. She went out, she didn't cry. She was totally professional. She did a really cute exit. And, I think she just, she's just good no matter, you know what I mean? Like, okay, keep me, I'll keep doing my thing. I gotta go. And sometimes that in and of itself is refreshing. Like, even though I thought that she was going to be in the top 4, going out this early, I sort of loved the way she did it.
Well, speaking of gotta go, we're going to wrap up Drag Race UK and make our way over to our next thing. So final thoughts on this guy. For me, I think my big take is it sort of feels like Vicky and Michael are on their own show. They're doing middle-aged gay ab fab, and they're just allowed to be the also-rans here. Not sure. I mean, they're both very handsome. They're very talented.
She's a little too horny, this one, though. Vicky,
yes. No, thank you, sir.
Her reading challenge made me uncomfortable. It was a little too much.
Yes. Your reading challenge was just, I'm thirsty. Not the worst one, which says a lot that we were so grateful for how good this library session was, that there were 3 queens that I'm like, you kind of tanked. And it's still better than some of the ones we've been getting for a while now. So that's wild. But yeah, I would love some kind of sitcom with any number of the queens from Drag Race doing sort of a Golden Girls thing. Maybe someday.
But I'm kind of still keeping all my weight behind Cara and Kate. Tamara's grown on me 1,000%. Really here to support her as well now. But Cara and Kate for me.
I need production to kind of like give Kate her flowers just a little bit more. It seems like she's getting momentum. She's getting some steps. I can also tell that after the show, the makeup's going to be better. She's going to have more bookings, so more money to upgrade the looks. She has what you need to be a successful drag queen. I think she has personality. She's funny. I think she's got the it factor. And she's doing well in a good number of these challenges. It is just a little, the polish is not polishing.
And hopefully, she can get a versus the world and then maybe even make her way over to the US All-Stars.
Truly. I will also say this season is so fascinating because I still think it's kind of anybody's game. I don't think there's anybody who's very clearly, I'm going to win. I think there's some people who I think might be shoo-ins for close to the finale or in the finale itself. But I don't think I still don't know who's going to win this season.
Kevo, you got any I almost said final, doesn't like parting final. Got any parting or final thoughts for us as we finish up Drag Race UK?
Mostly same. As I always say, hesitate to predict because it's always so tricky. People go out on the dumbest things, RIP scent challenge. And so, who knows? I am really pleased to see that we were, in fact, correct. That next week is going to end up being Snatch Game. I think it's weird that it's an uneven number. I don't like that. But maybe it'll be one of those weird ones that we keep getting, like that summit we had. I don't know.
Wow. Versus the world was odd.
most seasons they tend to do it when they have 8 queens, but on UK they just tend to do it when they have 7, which I don't know why either.
Smaller
It's a
island.
They're making up for the lack of landmass.
Yeah,
There's less
they-
space,
Yeah,
there's less
just for
space
the
there.
Commonwealth.
yeah, less space. So fewer queens on the panel. TK, you got any final thoughts on Drag Race UK before I crash this any harder?
That's one out of my top 4, which I'm just so shocked by. So I got to figure out who's in there now. But was Tamara, Caramel, Kate, Butch, and Banksy, and I still think those 3 are there. But we'll see. Maybe it's going to be a top 3 this season.
Well, I was about to say, it looks like Jonah's got one more thing to say. Oh, he's dabbing. No, okay. Jonah, it has been so amazing having you with us tonight, and we have had such an incredible time talking to you. And until we come back, whether it's Wednesdays for comics or
Are you taking off?
or during the weekend for our primary media coverage, where can everybody find you online?
You can find me over on any social media at Peak Jonah. That's PEAK.
Thank you so much, big guy, and we'll talk to you real soon.
Bye, everyone. Good luck.
Before you go, I have a bit that I've been working on, so I'm gonna pretend that I didn't preheat it like that. As you can see, I'm stuck in a cave currently. So, Jonah, I was wondering, since you're in the transporter room, if you wouldn't mind popping me up to the Cerritos real quick.
All right, one up to Cerritos.
Yeah, could you beam me directly to the bridge? I'd really appreciate it. Thank you. This isn't the bridge. That's fine. I'll stay here. Don't worry about it. Thanks, buddy.
Oh, I hope I don't get fired or demoted.
Okay.
Well, you are our favorite ensign.
Dumb.
Brilliant. Brilliant.
Love you.
Comedy. Love you. Love him. Okay.
It didn't work out quite how I wanted. I wanted him to send me to the bar, but that's okay. I forgot to load that one.
Well,
That's okay. This is my favorite set.
and since we got Lower Decks up, let's talk some Lower Decks for a minute.
Yeah.
This episode really gave, whether it's Nick Locarno or it is the idea that we don't just have serialization in the form of this ongoing ship narrative, but we do see serialization in the development of Mariner and her sense of self, as well as all of the other characters. I thought seeing, Rutherford stand alongside the captain this week was a really interesting way to make room for T'Lyn. Just everything about this episode was such a give, such a success. I was so happy, just generally with the fan service this provided. How about you guys?
With the fan service, sure. I guess my question to you based on that is, are you happy with what we're getting from the meta plot? We had talked previously to this about how either this episode was going to be like just fully the meta plot, or it would be a little bit into the last one, which will be fully the meta plot resolved.
And it feels like a combination in many ways.
It does. And I am curious how you felt about that. Like, given this entry, which stepped up the amount of the meta plot that we got, but was not actually really quite a full episode of it, did this bolster your feeling about this choice that they've made for the season?
I think that's a really great question. I want to answer it and then pass to Kevo to get his as well.
I mean, it's for both of you.
So I'm going to go first because I picked it. So I think the thing I want to say first is I don't know that I find this meta plot lacking, but I think something it does do is it puts me in the position to fill in a lot of the gaps. It's, it gave us this cool expanded cast of people who had been on the ships, and we find out that there had been an incited mutiny. It wasn't just like all the mutinied ships. It's not this thing is drawn to mutiny. It's that, so that loses some of the magic of it. Okay. I do think that there is a little bit of humanity to it, but I also don't always love it when Star Trek gives me magic. So I think I can handle this balance. Maybe,
and I think that's even the unfortunate fall of any mystery that starts making you believe that it could be that kind of like mystical, how are they doing this? And then when you see the strings and the man behind the curtain, you're like, oh, it wasn't magic. Like, I really get what you mean, but like it's part of it. It's part of the story development.
TK, how did you feel about it? Were you let down by it? Were you really open for more psychic aliens? Like it's still some disco?
No, I was fine with this. I mean, it's Lower Decks, so I wasn't expecting something along the lines of Discovery. They tend to do much more human character focused things because there's a lot more comedy in that. If you're gonna do psychic aliens, it's probably gonna be a 1 to 3 beat joke. Getting Robert Duncan back is really fun. I guess more than anything, I just kind of, given where they went with this plot, the only thing it made me wish was that it hadn't been such a tag at the end of most episodes throughout the season. I would have loved if this installment were episode 5. And, for the next 5 episodes, we were looking at maybe this is the B or the C plot or I should say for the next 4, it's the B or C plot until episode 10, where it wraps up big. But the point being, I like this. This experiment to me is a success. It's such a success that I kind of think that it has dampened a little bit of the rest of the season. But I really do think it goes to show that they can do bigger plots if they want to. That was my feeling about it.
And, I really appreciate that one of the first things you mentioned about this episode was the fan service element, because that really was something that from the first moment that we saw this list of names and we heard the name Nick Locarno, and not only that, but we saw Thomas Riker, 7 of 9, Beverly Crusher, who at this point had her septuagenarian baby. I'm barely joking, pentagenarian baby. And was on the run. And so, like, seeing these names, it just felt really cool. It could have gone nowhere. But it was really even things like Muds being the bar on this planet. I literally screamed, and both of my boys can attest to that. And it's things that I didn't even notice until I was getting screen caps for this episode. But there's been this recurring gag, almost, in Lower Decks, sort of pointing to the Vasquez Rock outcropping being a recurring element of Star Trek topography, because we go there as a filming location so often that on Lower Decks they've started making jokes like this is just a regular rock formation that happens all over the galaxy. Look at all of those natural Vasquez rocks happening out there. And then the opening scene is just all of these jagged rocks. So, like, even from the very beginning, there are all of these things. And I just felt so satisfied as this burgeoning Star Trek fan that I become this year. The weirdest thing even happened. As we were waiting for Jonah's train this week, I always talk about my freebie channels. And I'm looking at my Star Trek channel. And what is on my Star Trek channel? But the Nick Locarno episode. So this was just like such a wild, weird thing. I think that it represents so much of what Lower Decks does and what it tries to do. I really get your wanting it to have been episode 5, but now I'm really starting to wonder, is this going to even be able to be wrapped up in one episode? I hadn't even realized as they were talking about it, because I hadn't rewatched this episode in so long, but Sito was a person. I forgot. I haven't watched the original Lower Decks episode in so long. She is a person, and she is actually technically missing in action. She could be in next week's episode. I feel like there is so much that I think this could be a continuing arc into season 5, which feels like something they would do, knowing they had this pickup and that they had the potential to plan so far in advance.
I think you're right that I think it's very likely that it is going to go into season 5, which I think is great.
You mean it's going to boldly go where no Lower Deck story has gone before?
Exactly that, sir.
And I think the other thing that allows this crew is an opportunity to test what they're doing without having to change the dynamic. You know, one of the reasons that Discovery had to jump forward so far was because we'd kind of run out of convenient ways to test a crew sitting in the past. Now, because Discovery in and of itself exists way in the future of Lower Decks, we know that it can't change too much. You know what I mean? Like, there are some things that just can't be the case. And there is no way you could sneak some big change into the future that isn't at least touched on somewhere. You know what I mean? So it gives us an opportunity to see these characters grow without having to have it be something so big. Yeah, this is something the Lower Decks crew could get swept up in. He's a big enough character to fandom without being, a T'Pau level character.
I mean, kind of, yeah.
It buys
And
goodwill.
I also think it is such a funny thing to bring full circle, because I can't tell you how many people I still say, be like, no, we just assume Tom Paris is the same person as Nick Lorcano, and that's just it. And they're the same character. But this is sort of putting a definitive stamp on, no, we are bringing back this character to represent something different. It's why I included in this slide here one of the characters from the TNG episode Lower Decks, who is a Vulcan on TNG, later appears as a recurring character on Voyager as a completely different Vulcan. So it's to illustrate, like, this is sort of a thing that was done. Cedo recurring from that episode to her later Lower Deck episode and being significant was actually the weirder thing. So, you know, there's so many things they can do, and there's so many ways that they can play with the stuff that has been done to Star Trek over the years with this format.
And, you know, with the idea that they're playing with existing characters, something that Lower Decks could benefit from in its final season, especially if it's like fifth and final, if they do go into it with this as an ongoing arc and perhaps it does involve Nick Locarno, then I do think that it could be exciting to see a lot of the characters that are just sort of dangling after Voyager, after Next Gen. Some characters that still survive from the films of the original series, characters hanging out from Deep Space Nine, characters we've maybe met in some side canon that we've never met in main canon. This would be a great opportunity to flexibly use them in a way that I think you'll never get another chance to do. You know, because Star Trek isn't built for an MCU portal scene. So you got to get it where you can get it.
You know who's out here and alive right now? Ensign Rowe. There's lots of stuff with lots of people.
Somebody wants that.
I love her.
Oh, great. You can have it.
And we love that. I love things about her. I love everyone. I want to.
Well, you know, I do want to say that is part of the nature of I think the place we find ourselves in with storytelling for female characters that represent male identities at a certain time. You know, Ro was so coded male, and she was trying to, I think, make up for the mistakes of Tasha Yar, and they didn't quite yet understand how to forge forward a Kira Nerys. And it was a step up from Jazzercise gear on the bridge, you know?
And I think what you're saying even speaks to a lot of the way that the character of Cedo was treated. I had forgotten so much about this episode, but as I was reading up on her character and remembering, she was a lower decker who volunteered for a very dangerous mission where she was going to have to, like, she got genetic modification to look like she had been tortured to help escort a Cardassian, and like was supposed to be left and be picked up, like, and rescued, and she wasn't at the rendezvous point. And like it's this heartbreaking story about this young woman. And I feel like it in so many ways is preying on this, look how young she is. They comment many times in the episode how young she is. And it was sort of making her a victim for the sake of our emotions. So it makes you wonder if maybe that is part of the plan of bringing her back in this story potentially and giving her more agency and letting her come back for this stronger story for a female character. But, you know, we'll find out Thursday. I don't want to speak too much assuming she's alive, and then they're going to be like, nope, here's her body. She's dead.
She's been dead forever. She's been dead since before this episode. That's a clone.
This is her daughter from a time warp. I don't even know, because it's, again, Star Trek, so.
All right, let's do final calls on next week's finale. For me, my big hope is just that we get a moment with the Lower Decks crew. We've had a lot of cute little ones, but we haven't had a lot of like cool big action ones. I've loved like the Caves episode that was so thoughtful, getting to see them all together, but give them a sweeping big action moment as the heroes they've become, and don't make it saving Mariner. Reunite them as early on as you can, because I'm a needy wanty baby. How about you guys?
Even if it's like Mariner does something and the rest of them are doing something and both parts save something and then they come together. But I get where you're coming from, where you don't want Mariner just rescued. But yeah, you know, all this talk of we want to see more of them together this season. So I really hope that's something that they're driving toward for the finale.
I got nothing. I don't really want anything from it. I will basically be happy with anything. I can't guarantee it's all going to work, but
you don't even want Betazoid women kicking ass.
I mean, if we're talking about that, then we go the route of one of my favorite tropes in a show. And I was telling Nico about this the other day, but it is where all the most powerful people that you've encountered throughout the show's history all show up to fight the big bad or help out. I cry every time. And I don't think that this is that episode of Star Trek. But
yeah,
at the end of season 5, if like Badgie redescended from, you know, the next dimension, if the Beta Zeds came
koala
back. Yeah, exactly. You know, just every creature that we've seen, if they all came down and helped the Cerritos crew stop the big bad, I will just fall into a puddle. For this episode, this coming up one, I don't really need much of anything. I'm really curious to see if they can do this all in 22-ish minutes or if this is carrying into season 5. I'm really curious to see how this is all developing for the future of animated Star Trek. I'm just excited. It's going to be fun.
Yeah.
I also want to see if we can do this in about 22-ish minutes. So let's talk about Loki.
Yeah. Which we haven't covered since the first episode, have we?
I think we touched on the second episode briefly, but you know, Loki as a show, you know, it's a constant, I think, compromise with the Marvel universe at large, because one of the things that the nature of the Loki show asks us to do is it asks us to sort of say, yeah, this still isn't our Loki. And even if it is our Loki, it's still not quite our universe. And even if it is our multiverse, it's still not quite, this is the way all the Avengers are going to die. And so there are so many balances to it. For my money, it's one of the best TV shows Marvel's produced. But I do think it is occasionally, you know, look at big buff action star Loki. It's just a lot to ask, but I'm on for the ride.
I love your point, and I really feel like something that hugely pointed to it this episode was Loki talking to Sylvie and saying, my brother Thor was banished to Earth a few years ago, and I called him soft and mocked him. And I'm like, you mean like 2 seconds ago because you're the Loki from the end of the Avengers? And like, yes, genuinely by now a lot of time has passed even for this Loki, but it really did remind me like, oh, but you're not the one who mocked him that we saw in Thor the Dark World. You're not the one who impersonated your father and made people put on plays about your life. You're not all that guy. You're still a different guy, and I need to remember that because they don't want me to remember, probably. They just want me to see you as Loki.
Correct.
It's just getting to the point now where one thing that would really help is to see a little bit better how this is going to get us to Kang Dynasty and Secret War. This feels so important, and beautiful. I mean, the other thing that
and oddly intimate.
That I was just about to say, I can't get over the relationship between Sylvie and Loki. It's probably the best romance in the history of the MCU. And it's so fucked up, but so important. And the fact that they have both been to the end of time and are literally the only two people besides maybe now Ravonna and Miss Minutes who understand the enormity of the multiversal issue that they are having. I feel like I don't want to exit the Marvels in a couple weeks and not have some feeling that these three women who I think are so important to other stuff aren't somehow destined to be heading towards this. I don't want that just to be something that I know because I'm a fan of Marvel products and I pay attention to the internet. I want that to start being encoded into some texts. And it just feels like it's probably not going to happen and I need to temper my expectations. Doesn't make anything worse. It just feels like such a untapped potential for all this stuff that they're doing. But Nico, I mean, I love that you brought up just like how intimate this is because that's such a big part of it. Like for all that this is potentially they just reset the entire multiverse. This could literally be this episode. You could say, if you wanted to, you could say, the loom broke and all of reality, all the multiverses reset and you could restart the Marvel universe here. So the fact that that's happening in this episode, that we're still having Sylvie and Loki not be able to love each other, having Mobius and Loki become best friends, having Mobius sort of start to think about who he might have been as a person. It's all really beautiful and touching.
And, one of the shots that I really love, and I need to update my screen caps, and I will for the finale, but, you mentioned that you wanted to get this room as one of your backgrounds potentially for this episode, because really so much has centered around this room and specific rooms of the TVA and this specific tight configuration of characters. Even if we expand beyond like that main trio, like how much B-15 and OB have been part of this tight team and there for so much of it. Even with their own stuff going on, even with their own moments, has really been so interesting. And they've really accomplished such an incredible feat. And again, knowing I'm going to trust, but now that we have gotten through episode 4, you're telling me there were no reshoots and this is everything that you had planned from the very beginning? Wow, good for you. Tough stuff. And I don't even necessarily need everything that has happened and that they are doing to be planned as they were making it to tie in everything to Secret Wars and Kang and all of that. But I need the stuff that comes out to then become important. You need to be able to reflect back on the stuff that you've built as you are building the new stuff and make sure that you are saying, okay, this is where we came from. And we need to make sure that we are taking the pieces that we set out and making them important. It's not just important as you're making Loki season 2. As you're making Loki season 2, there should be some amount of freedom because this is live. But as you're making it later, as you are making the later product that's supposed to tie these things together, just please don't forget the elements that are supposed to be important.
And, it's speaking of people and making sure they're important. I think there's no way that now that they've stated that he who remains, like that Kang, is the lover of Ravonna, there's no way she can just be erased, right? I mean, yes, obviously she could, and but like fandom will remember it. But I am so glad that Miss Minutes got her clock cleaned, because she was starting to creep me out, and I love things like creepy hypersexual clocks. And I just did not love where they took her as. No, I loved it. I really loved it. But then did not need more of her. Okay, bye. I don't need more of her. If she gets like merged with Ravonna or something, fine. But like,
it was a lot all at once.
Yeah, TK, do you have any thoughts on Miss Minutes?
I'm reserving judgment. It was super creepy. I liked the frenetic pace of that episode, where, you can tell something is weird about Miss Minutes. You can tell she doesn't like Ravonna. You can tell that Timely ends up trusting Ravonna too quickly. Things just keep happening, and that he ditches Ravonna, that he then immediately ditches Miss Minutes. I really liked where all that was going, and I don't think you could have gotten there without this kind of plot device. The idea that Miss Minutes wants to be a real girl is fascinating and could be really fun. I would love to keep the character with the history. I don't know that we need to do any more of the horny for Kang moments. I think it was great in that moment, and I loved that she immediately was like, well, now I fucking hate him.
Loved that.
Keep that energy. I think we're good.
I also wonder, and this is having just come off of watching Voyager with the Doctor, and that being a character who is a hologram. And, part of me is like, nice, the horny hologram thing. But part of me is also like, it's a little played out. I'm so horny for you. I want to be a real girl. And now part of me is wondering, what if they went in the opposite direction? And she's like, her last words were, "You'll never be him." So what if she swings in the opposite direction, and instead of being like, I want a body, why aren't I creating a Kang to exist in my world who can potentially be as immortal and limitless as me, rather than me wanting to contain myself to a physical body?
What if she creates one of the alternate versions of Kang?
There's a lot of potential for what she is capable of, I think. So
yeah, I love that.
I like putting a pin in her. I like showing that she has limits, but I think her potential is also really awesome. And it's another one of those things, much like this best friendship that I keep saying. This is not from the comics. Ms. Minutes is an uncanny character who is proving to be incredibly popular and very fast.
And, when you've got things like the role that Mobius plays, Ravonna, all of the letter number combination team. Hey guys, one of the things that it adds to the bigger picture of not just the TVA, but Loki, is it creates a sense of the workings. They all have a very Office Space kind of feel. They all play their role, and there's a purposeful sense of defined limitation. On like another show, we might be like, oh God, they're just so underdeveloped. Here, no, we're like, this is a celebration of the fact that they've always been kept in the dark of their real selves by never having the light switch turned on for those parts of themselves. Something that is so illuminating is the parts that we don't realize, we don't ask for of other characters, that they're just utilizing that we've never asked for here against us. Oh, cool. Silence. Yes. So, I guess my question for you guys is, what are your thoughts on Loki, where it's at? Where is your heart? The loom just exploded. Everybody's dead. We have such an enormous cast that I can't really believe this is the end of them, even if this is the end of Loki. But we are in a position where they could just sort of make this story very one and done for many of these characters. We have 2 left. right? What are your guys' hopes that we're going to come in contact with during the rest of the season? I would like one Marvel cameo, just one. Doesn't matter who it is. I'll take anybody. It's fine. But really, I would just like something that says this is still the Marvel Universe. This still matters.
What I'm predicting is that episode 5 is going to probably be a lot of fallout from this. I think we are probably going to finally get that jet ski footage of Mobius. Maybe we'll finally see B-15s, real life on the timeline. Maybe we'll find out OB is from the timeline. I think that will probably be what we get from 5, and then 6 will be the wrap-up, which, I am both excited and disappointed because I feel like we got to this point so quickly. And I don't want this to be over because I don't know what's going to happen next. I don't know that we have any indication or guarantee that it will be picked up for another season or who will be in control of it. And what any of that means. So it's bittersweet, but I'm excited and I'm nervous. And like you said, I'd love more Marvel cameos in some way, shape, or form. But I think a lot of these shows prove that when they are strong enough, they don't need it. So hopefully it doesn't need it. How about you, Teak?
Slightly muted.
Just a bit.
Much less muted.
I agree that I hope it doesn't need the Marvel cameo, but I would like to see it. They've got the ability to do it. I would even accept like not a person cameo, but just like a hey, this is still part of the events that we're seeing in movies and other shows. Yeah, I'd take that. For me, the big things are I want to see what's happening with Sylvie and Loki, and I would not hate for this show to establish some kind of narrative status quo that they could, if they're going to get a third season, they could say like, hey, it's been a year and we've spent that whole time doing like positive timeline, maturing, and the TVA goes to timelines and makes sure they're safe. And I'd love to see them sort of establishing what the new purpose of this thing is going to be. But really for me, it's kind of all about Loki and Sylvie, and exploring the really beautiful relationships between all of the characters.
I can't wait to come back. And let's see. Next week is the finale of Lower Decks. The week after is the finale of Loki and the Marvels. Then we have something on the schedule at some point, right? I think there's something. It's got to be another show at some point, right?
There's always something.
We've got Doctor Who coming up next month. We have.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I meant for the MCU.
No, it's that Loki ends the same week as the Marvels, so we have a double punch that weekend.
But there's nothing on the schedule after that.
I don't think there's another show after that until Echo.
I don't think there is any. I don't know when the next movie is. If you give me a second, I'll look.
I mean, Echo's
in the meantime.
Drop, right?
In the meantime,
how about some Eternals? Okay, how about some Eternals? Some of us,
I agree.
Some of us love the Eternals.
All of us love the Eternals. I loved the Eternals. I really think they deserve to be back.
The next, sorry to interrupt, but now that I have the data in front of me, the next thing on the schedule after the Marvels is 7 months from now, Deadpool 3.
There you go. That'll be a big multiversal story. That actually could really tie into Loki.
Yeah. It could be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
But as Kevo pointed out, we do have some other much more exciting, for being sooner, not much more exciting. Just, we could actually schedule these. We've got some big stuff coming up with things like Doctor Who. That's very exciting for, a multitude of reasons. It's the return of a beloved creator, not just the return of a beloved actor, and frankly, a bold new era for the Doctor in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, since it is Halloween, we also have a lot of really cool programming right here on our channel. We've got our Haunted Mansion episode. We've got our Fall of Usher episode. We've got our Halloween marathon recommendations. And then I know later this week, we're going to be discussing some Spoopoween Marvel titles as well. So, happy holidays, everyone. Anybody have any big plans?
I did my big plans this weekend, and now it's
Do you guys get trick or treaters?
7.
Yeah.
7.
You're on a hill. That's got to be tough. Well, that's why you're hills. I wouldn't.
Yeah, I don't. I don't. I did not used to trick or treat in my neighborhood. Like we would go to another neighborhood, but so.
Well, I cannot wait to come back this week with some spooky stuff, and then kind of right after that, I get kind of holidaysy.
Oh yeah, we are that midnight meme. I think we're gonna listen to. You'll be asleep, but I'm gonna start listening to Christmas songs at midnight just to be funny.
I like that. So just get ready. But until then, it has been such a pleasure to come back and have like our first like full normal fucking broadcast in a hot minute. Felt so good. Felt so right. Had a couple of long life weeks, and so it's nice to get to just celebrate with the guys I love so much. Oh geez, so many of you that have hung out in this audience for 3 hours, kings, queens, and all royals in between.
Love you, Tom.
So Kevo, until we come back, where can everybody find you?
You can find me on the Soch at Kevo Really. That's KEVOREALLY. Teak, where can everyone find you on the Soch?
You can find me at TK Elemental. Nico, where can everybody find you?
You guys can find me at Nico Action. That's NICOACTION. Right?
You can find our show on all of the Soch as well at X's for Show. And you can find all of the amazing music that we play on this program for you at the SoundCloud for one Nico Action at Nico J. Vasillo. And yeah.
And we cannot wait to come back and do this show for you. So 3 things to remember. Number 1, gotta stay safe. Crazy world out there right now. Stay safe as fuck, please. Number 2, please be brave. Right? It's scary, but gotta keep staying on top of things. And number 3, evolve daily and be the best you can be tomorrow, right? Because you're working on that today. And until then, we'll see you.
And we will keep the light on for you.